He hasn't spoken a word.
Hello, creeps. It's your old pal, the Crypt Keeper. And you are now tuned in to my good fiends at Talks from the Crypt, the most gruesome podcast in the world.
Oh, should I try not to swear? Because I know YouTube's got a thing with that, don't they?
Swear it up. I swear it like a motherfucker. I'll beep out certain words like
Hunt.
No, cunt stays in always. Like gets beeped. I know that's a buzzword.
Oh yeah.
Do you rock headphones or no? It's not needed, but
yeah, I was gonna ask about that. I'd prefer not to, but if you
don't have to.
Okay.
As long as you have a podcast, so you know.
Yeah, we don't actually no, usually one of us will keep them on. But because we're not on camera, it doesn't like if we really cared, we would have introduced video many years ago.
Yeah.
Because we're not even on YouTube. Like, and then it's like, fuck, we could upload, God, I don't even know how many hours of content it is. Cause like the first like 7 years, it was always like 3-hour episodes. But 625 episodes and like 2 live shows a month. And then Yorkie-thon.
Never missed a Monday, right?
Never missed a Monday.
Yeah, that's a pretty big commitment. And what I love hearing about the story of you starting the podcast is that it wasn't even to start a podcast. It was an addition for.
We were adamantly against it, but we were like, we'll do it for the 10 weeks that season 2 is airing.
Right.
And then that's it. But like right towards the end, they were like, you guys are in like the top 20 on iTunes. You might want to stick with this. And it was like, can we make money at this? Like, oh yeah. But it has been great because every week you think you're ready to quit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you sit down with somebody else and listen to what they've been through. And then you're like, oh man, like, yeah, I can do this one more week.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps repeating. But
in your world, what exactly is wanting to quit? What gets that out of you? You know, like, because you guys are so well known and established. And the only reason I ask is because, you know, still in the beginning stages, I feel like giving up, and hearing when more established people have that similar feeling, it's always fascinating to me.
Yeah, it sounds like, because I mean, the last question we ask every guest is, what was a point where things seemed so bleak that you could have given up, and how did you not? And every single guest pauses and goes, oh man. And then there's like 50 instances they could talk about. Mm-hmm. But usually it's just like, finally things were going right, and then out of nowhere, it usually has nothing to do with you. Just using my last like 6 years as an example, but like to have something like Killer Pizza that I put 10 years into and finally it was happening, and to like see the approved budget and then be at the effects shop, and like, you know, the Marvel stuff is to my left and all the Star Wars stuff is to my right. And I'm like, this is really happening. Yeah. Like, holy shit.
Let's explain Killer Pizza to people who don't know.
Oh, is this part of it? Oh,
yeah. We roll cold.
So Killer Pizza is a book series, like a young adult book series. And let's see, I think there's 3 books. But when the first one came out, I was sent the book by 1492 Productions, which is Chris Columbus's company, because they had read another script of mine that they liked. And anyway, I was over the moon over this thing. It was very kind of skin and bones and basic, but I had a really clear vision for what I wanted to do with it. I got the job and I wrote a first draft, and they had slipped it to MGM just to get like an impression before, because when something is union, like you do a first draft and then producers can give a round of notes. You do another draft and then you do a polish. So it isn't out of the ordinary for producers to show potential studio execs and stuff, well, what do you think of this? In case, you know, before they're going to give me the notes. And MGM just bought it straight out. So it was like, wow. And I think the budget that was proposed was around like $50 million.
Jesus.
And part of the deal was it had to go into production within 18 months. So they couldn't like drag it out. And then they just made me keep rewriting it and rewriting it. And eventually I started, just my opinion, to feel like, oh, whatever just opened this weekend, now they want me to make it like that. Now, at one point they had said, make it like super bad, but without any swearing. I'm like, that's all super bad was.
It's the best part of it too.
Yeah, like that's because they spoke like kid. Like, so anyway, then eventually MGM wasn't doing anything. And so they got it back. And this is 2011, probably. And then I'm like, what if this was a series? But back then that wasn't as much of a thing and no one really took that seriously. Then Stranger Things comes out. And then it was, what if this was a series? And so we were able to set it up at Universal. And at one point it was going to, oh man, this is such a convoluted story. But when you have a project and you have a studio on board, then you need to find the network that's actually going to buy this thing and air it. I really wanted it on regular television because that's where the residuals are. Because streaming, you don't get anything.
Let's explain that real quick. Because, you know, with how big Netflix is, how many people have a membership and how rich they are, how do you guys not get anything from streaming?
I shouldn't say we don't get anything, but let's just say like back when there was physical media and your movies played on like linear, you know, HBO, Showtime, Cinemax, you could get residual checks each quarter that were like several $1,000s, especially when the movie first comes out and it was on like the new release shelf at Blockbuster. You could get, God, depends on the movie, but like $20,000 checks, $40,000 checks, which made up for how shitty you got paid for all the years you were working on the thing.
Right.
But those days are gone. So now you get a check for a movie that's streaming on like Hulu or wherever, and sometimes it'll be like $30, like for like it's supposedly it's changing because of the strike. Still waiting on that, but
The strike.
yeah, that strike was totally worth it. Yeah, anyway, I really wanted it to be on a TV network. And so the first place we went and pitched it was YouTube Red, which I believe isn't even a thing anymore. Like that's how far back we're going now. But when we walked in, there's all these people there. I don't know why. I don't think they know why, but it's always like this. And there's always like one person in the room who's the one with the buying power. So you'll watch the other execs around the table kind of just keep watching how they're reacting and trying to match that. So if they're laughing, they're like, and then if they're not, they're like, no.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows. And the guy with the buying power had his phone out in front of him. And I think subconsciously, I just kept looking at it. Like, why is your phone out, dude? And then he very politely, before we got started, he's like, I'm sorry, my wife is about to go into labor. If I have to leave, I'm like,
Oh, great.
not selling this.
Yeah.
But it was fine because we didn't really want it there. Now, the other thing with pitching is you want to, in an ideal situation, get multiple places that want it. And then you have what's called a bidding war. And then you can try to set the parameters of it. Like we'll go with the place that's going to give us the most episodes or the, you know, whatever. So the next day we go to Sci-Fi Channel, which was where I wanted it to go because that was the only broadcast network, cable network that we were talking to. And while we're in the waiting room, a shooting breaks out at YouTube Red.
Jeez. Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Right? And we still had 30 minutes before the meet. I'm always notoriously early to everything. And so I'm calling the producers like, let's not do this. This is not a good day. Like, because everyone in the building at Sci-Fi's at Universal, they were all glued to the TV and everyone knows each other, you know, so people are worried, rightfully so. And then to start with like, oh, well, I know that's happening. Let me tell you about Killer Pizza. I'm like, we shouldn't do this, but it's too late. Like everyone was there. So we go into the room and it's just two assistants. The actual people with buying power weren't even in the room. And again, very politely, the assistants are like, I'm sure you hear what's going on right now. Everybody's just concerned, but you just pitch it to us and we'll take notes. And I was like, not selling this. Like the slightest thing can go wrong. Long story short, 2 days later, the Sci-Fi Channel bought it. Like that was the one where there was no way because the people with the buying power weren't in the room. And then something happened and it was going to be moved to Peacock, but I didn't even understand what Peacock was. This is again, 7 years ago. I'm like, I know it's like a streaming service, but it hadn't really launched yet. But there was talk of, oh, this could be like the flagship show. This could be our Stranger Things. Nobody knows. And so it finally got to a point where there was a budget that I actually like saw, and the excitement was just like, oh my God, this is really happening. And it was like, at least the budget I saw was like $116 million first season. Like it was a big show. And it was like, finally, I'm going to get to show what I can really do. And then it was the same day that I went over to Legacy, which is Stan Winston's company. Now it's called Legacy. And I remember asking one of the producers, can I celebrate now? Because you never, even the movie I'm in post on now, if I could have had my way, it never would have been announced because it could still go away. You never know in this industry. And anyway, I'm like, can I celebrate? And they're like, yes, you can celebrate. And I call my parents and I'm just like, holy shit, this is a huge budget thing. It's really happening. We're really doing it. And it was either 5 or 6 hours later, we're going to shut the country down for 2 weeks to slow the curve. And I was like, that's it. It's over. And everyone's like, no, it's not over. Like, it's just 2 weeks. I'm like, you think this is going to be gone in 2 weeks? Well, he said,
I was one of those suckers.
Yeah.
I thought it was not going to last that long.
Well, people forget too, in the early days of the pandemic, nobody knew what the hell was going on. And you're hearing all these different things. I mean, to this day, there's still people that argue if it even happened. So
I got that shit twice. Did you?
I got it. Oh, man, I didn't get it until 6 months ago.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And I went to a Sebastian Bach show at the Whiskey, and my friend and I both came back with COVID.
That's where you would get it, is at the Whiskey.
Yeah, probably. But there was another show I went to at the Whiskey. This was back in like, not like the thick of it, but once things were opening up again. But I kept a mask on the whole time because I don't really drink. But my friends that I was with kept lowering their masks to drink. They both got it, and like I didn't.
Right.
So, yay. But regardless, when you talk about, or when I talk about the times when you want to quit, it's just like how much more can go wrong. And I know when you're on the outside, it seems like everything's great, but you've made all these movies and people like them but that's not the reality. Yes, it's amazing. So grateful. It's awesome. And like, I think that's where our podcast comes in, is because normally when you're doing an interview, it's to promote. Everything's got to be positive. Everybody was a trooper and a team player and everything's great. But then when you have somewhere where you can hear a group of filmmakers sit down and just vent and just be honest about what the experience is really like, I think that's a huge benefit, not just to the people who want to do this, but even for fans, just to fully understand it. Like, you know how when you would get a Blu-ray and you'd watch whatever the special features were in the making of, they never show post-production unless it's like a huge Hollywood movie, because there's nothing for people to look at. It's a bunch of people in a dark room behind a screen for months and months.
That's like a how-to. Like if you're a filmmaker, the special features are golden.
Yeah. And right around the time that I got started, I mean, Hatchet 1 came out in 2007. Home video was still huge, and those things were really important. But we've always had to do those ourselves, because the distributor will be like, look, if you want to make stuff, we'll put it on the disc, but we're not paying for it.
Right.
And we would load up our discs. I think Frozen, there's like a 90-minute making of that a guy named Adam Barnick directed. He did such a good job. I actually think the making of is as good as the movie. You forget that you're one of the people that you're watching. Like he just did such a good job.
Well, what you guys went through to put that together. I mean, getting some of those cranes up there, you guys had to build like these custom fucking snow sleds for them.
Yeah. And at the time, I was like, all right, well, this was the ridiculously hard one. Nothing we do will be that hard.
Until
And Ascent, the one we just did, definitely rivals Frozen. I mean, it's a very similar type of movie. It's people stranded in a high altitude situation. But I still think the hardest production we ever went through was actually Hatchet 3.
I was going to ask about that
That was the worst.
because you're not dealing with snow. Now you're dealing with mud and actual rain.
And bugs.
Oh my
Like,
God.
there's a reason people don't shoot in a real swamp.
yeah.
And we knew that, but well, we did Frozen. Like we can handle this. So there's bugs. Like somebody went to urgent care almost every single night.
Yeah, I heard that. I was wondering if that
Kane
was true.
had to go at
For
one
what?
point from mosquito bites.
Oh, shit.
And he's covered up with silicone for like most of his body, but just like his arms here, he had like 128 bites just on his forearms.
My God.
And between the bites and I guess it's from DEET and the bug spray, like he just inhaled too much of it, but he was having difficulty breathing. But Kane being Kane, you know, the medic is like, let me drive you to the urgent care. He's like, drive myself.
I'll jog there.
And he did. But yeah, it was like warfare and it was so hot and it was just like, and then you watch the movie and there's like a couple shots where you can even see the mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Cause I was like, well, look, usually the harder the movie is to make, the better looking it is. Like when you're shooting in the rain or the snow it just looks awesome. And you can barely, there's like a few bugs, I think, on Danielle's face, like towards the end where you really see them. If I'm remembering correctly, I haven't watched it in like 10 years, but yeah, that one was
So you don't go back often and revisit your own films?
No. Usually by the time it's come out, as the director, you've seen it 1,000 times in editing and over again. And then like testing it and talking about it. And it's pretty grueling. So by the time it comes out, the last thing you want to do is watch it. But then there's like festival screenings and depending on the movie, sometimes I'll always sit in for like the first one. And then after that, I'll like introduce it, leave, and then come back for the Q&A. But it's a little different with like the Hatchet movies because they're so fun to watch with an audience and you want to see how they're going to react. I think so with Victor Crowley, with the fourth one, I toured with that one. And I should have like refreshed my memory before sitting down for this, but
No, it's okay.
I want to say it was like 50 dates that I did. If
Back
that
to back?
includes almost back to back. Yeah. There was like the whole month of October that year. It was like every night in a different city. I think we had like 2 nights off. And then some cities we would do 2 shows a night. But I sat in through almost every single one of them just because that's the drug in doing this is the reaction from an audience, whether it's like cringing in fear in a movie like Frozen or laughing out loud in a Hatchet movie or cheering for like the gore effects or whatever. But like, that's what makes all the pain and making it worth it. Cause you get that reward of watching a whole bunch of people be really happy for a few seconds. And you're just like, that's why I did this. That's why I did this. And then that laugh is over and you're like, they hate it. And then the next laugh comes and you're like, they like it. They like it. And like, and every filmmaker is the same way. You could read 2 million reviews that say, wow, these filmmakers did a great job. This movie's a lot of fun. It means nothing. And then like the one who's like, worst thing I've ever seen. You're like, yep, knew it. Fucking terrible, terrible. Which is always funny when people say certain filmmakers are like, oh, their ego is so big. Why? Because they're taking a risk and putting themselves out there and like trying to promote it. Who else is going to do it if they don't?
Right.
But at least what we've learned in 625 episodes of the Movie Crypt, everybody is just full of self-doubt and self-loathing.
Yeah. Does it ever get easier? Like, do you ever feel like you're getting a hang of it?
Yeah. I feel like I know how to do it, but the problem is with each movie, it's like you have this vision for it. You know exactly how to do what you want to do to tell the story. visually, the effects, the music, the sound, all of it. And then the reality is, well, if you need this much, we're just going to give you this much. So see what you can do with that. And then everything is compromised. Now the audience, they only know what they see. They don't know what you wanted it to be, what you wished it could have been. Like, they just know what they're seeing. And for me personally, I found it takes 7 years after a movie comes out before I can see it the way the audience sees it, and not remembering where I was standing in that shot, how I really wanted it, that we ran out of time, that it rained that night and we got shut down and we didn't get to shoot this whole thing, or like this had to be rushed, or whatever it might be. Except for Holliston. Like, that was the greatest, like, every day was just a party. Like, it was a small crew. You go there every day and just laugh your ass off with friends and the guest stars that would come through. And like if it looks like we're having so much fun on that show, it's because we really were. And especially on the days.
Where did you film it?
We filmed Holliston at Red Studios in Hollywood, which used to be Ren Mar. And then before that, it was Desi Lou. So I'm pretty sure, like, I Love Lucy was shot there. I think Andy Griffith.
Oh, wow.
And then the woman who first brought us around on the tour had said the first 4 episodes of Seinfeld were shot on the same stage where we shot. But I don't know if that's true. I thought Seinfeld was shot in Culver. It doesn't matter.
You never know with these salespeople.
It was so great. They were shooting Underworld, one of the Underworlds on the stage next door to us. I remember a group of us watching Kate Beckinsale in that costume, like, walk to set and just being like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, and the only directed thing that I don't think I've seen of yours is Coffee and Donuts. But you said that if you've watched the pilot episode of Holliston, you've pretty much seen Coffee and Donuts.
Yeah. So to back up, I get out of college and I'm making cable commercials at Time Warner Cable in Malden, Massachusetts, which is where I met Will Barrett on my first day. And we started borrowing the equipment so we could make our own stuff. And this is 1996 when I started there, because I was an intern. I graduated in 97 and started there full time. So back then, a great video camera was really expensive. And so having access to that really helped. And Time Warner, they had a Betacam SP camera and an Arri kit with 3 small lights in it. And I thought I had hit a gold mine. Like, and the boss, Peter, was so cool about it. He knew what we were doing. It's not like he didn't know we were taking this stuff, but he was able, for the most part, to just look the other way and ignore it. He was very encouraging. And I'm really lucky I had that, because I don't think most people would have stood for that if, like, their employees were, like, taking this expensive equipment every night to go make their own stuff. So Coffee and Donuts was made for $400. It was shot on Beta SP, edited tape to tape. And we just wanted to see if we could make a feature. And so I wrote it, directed it, starred in it.
First thing you ever wrote?
I had written shorts, and I think I had attempted to write a feature once before, but I didn't finish it maybe. But Coffee and Donuts happened really fast. And then it was like 6 months of shooting, because we could only shoot so many hours a night and on weekends. And there was really no crew. It was like whoever was around. And then each night you'd have to start by teaching them how to plug the lights in. And this is how you hold the boom. And so we finished it, and we didn't know anything about film festivals. So the first film festival that was coming up, that's what we submitted to. And it was called the I'm going to get this wrong, Nantahala, I believe, Smoky Mountain Film Festival, which isn't even around anymore. And so we just send them, because back then submissions were on VHS tape. And so that's what we sent. And then a few weeks later, we get, you've been selected. And we were like, in what category? They're like, the feature film category. Can you send us the print? So again, to back up, Will Barrett, he's the DP who's done all but one thing that I've ever done. Every short, every commercial, everything I've ever done, Will was the guy except for one film,
Which was
which was
3?
Hatchet 4.
Oh yeah, Victor Crowley.
Yeah, he got an offer that he absolutely could not refuse. Like he had to take that. And thankfully, Jan Michael Lasada stepped in as DP and he was fucking phenomenal. But Will figured out while we were editing, there's a time-based generator in the editing deck that if you put a Phillips head screwdriver in it and turned it the right way, it would make the image flicker. And then he did a half mix dissolve on top of itself as straight video. And on VHS, it didn't, if you knew what you were looking at, you knew it wasn't film, but you didn't know what it was. Cause this is before 24p cameras or any of that stuff. But it looked just enough like film that it just confused people. They're like, what was this shot on? Cause it looks like film, but I don't think it's film. So we wrote back to the Smoky Mountain Film Festival, we can't send the print because it's broken. Like we didn't want to tell them this is a movie on videotape. And I think that was the year that Mike White's Chuck and Buck hit Sundance, and their whole thing was the first movie shot on video. And technically we were a year earlier than that. But the mistake we made with Coffee and Donuts was because we didn't know what we were doing. There's copywritten logos, posters, music, like, and it's not the type of thing where you could just go in and change it because it was edited tape to tape. There were 2 tracks of audio. We don't have that stuff anymore. So you can't go in and replace the songs. Especially I'm singing an Aerosmith song along with the song in the movie. Like you can't distribute that. And then people are like, well, just stick it on YouTube for free. We could still get in trouble because it could be considered promoting ourselves, especially now that we have careers. You don't want to mess with that. And like, I'm trying to think of, I think did we use a Beach Boys song? The whole soundtrack, we never in a million years could we afford it. But we didn't make that thinking anyone was going to see it. So we win Best Picture in that film festival.
Well, what did that process teach you of actually starting something and finishing it? Because that probably taught you so much, which you carried into Hatchet later.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah. Every time you do anything, you're going to learn something or get better at something. At least I hope. If you're one of those people who's like mastered it, you probably haven't. And just no one around you is willing to tell you that yet. But like you can always keep getting better. But I think what Coffee and Donuts taught me was where there's, and I don't mean this as a pun, but like where there's a will, there's a way. Like at the time, it seemed impossible to make a feature. And this is where people always get pissed at me. Like you can make a movie on your phone now. And everyone gets so mad when I say that. And they're like, no, you can't. It's not the same thing. Look at what Sean Baker did. Like you can do it. Like, now, yeah, he had a lens package in front of that smartphone and all that other stuff, but you can do that too. It's become much more affordable to do something like Coffee and Donuts. I'm not saying you can just have your phone and nothing else and go make Sinners,
Right.
But you can at least effectively tell a story without needing to sink all this money into it. Like our first couple short films, like we shot on film because we wanted to learn how to do that. It was expensive. Like that was all the money you had just on film stock and development. And so, and I also learned like finish what you start. Like so many people abandon things, especially with writing. They get halfway through a script, they kind of get stuck and then that's it. Like
Right.
For years, they keep saying, I'm kind of writing this thing, but it's been so long. Like finish it. Just finish what you start and know it might not be what you want, but then work on it. Get it as good as you can. Like it's certainly not a phrase I coined, but like no movie is ever finished. It's abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
At least with a script, like that's not costing money necessarily for you to write. So put the time in there and not when you get to post and you're like, actually, wait, this doesn't make any sense, does it? Like, that's not a good time to be figuring that out.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Right. Now, did you get into this to be a writer, or was
No,
being a director always the end goal?
I think I'm a much better writer than director, to be honest, but I never wanted to be a writer. I wrote as a means to an end to have something to direct.
Well, and what I find fascinating about when you moved out to LA after the success of Coffee and Donuts, winning that award, you started doing some stand-up comedy to hone in on writing. And I always found that fascinating. Like, I wonder what comedy taught you. Was it like the art of misdirection? I mean, what did comedy bring to your writing game?
Yeah, it's funny because even I forget sometimes when I first started, I was a comedy guy. Like Coffee and Donuts was a straight up comedy, probably a romantic comedy, really, like a juvenile romantic comedy, but still. And we have shown Coffee and Donuts before, like the Movie Crips Yorkie-thon. It's a 48-hour, well, it used to be a 48-hour live marathon where Lynch and I would stay on the air for 48 hours and there's guests coming around the clock, usually about like 75 celebrities a year.
With no sleep, no breaks?
With no sleep.
Jeez.
So for the first 6 years, that's what we did. And we've raised at this point just under $300,000 and saved a ton of dogs, which that's why it's called the Yorkie-thon. It's for Save a Yorkie Rescue, which is a dog rescue we work with. And after year 6, because the problem is it's not the 48 hours of staying awake. It's hard, but you can do it because your adrenaline's going and you're watching the money come in and realizing like every however many dollars, that's another life saved. That's another, and like you just get like, and then it's always Schindler's List at the end. We could have saved one more. We could have this ring, this. But that after year 6, when I got home, sorry, I'm jumping around here. It's not the marathon, it's the weeks leading up to it because so much work and prep goes into being able to pull something like that off. Just managing 70 or 80 guests and what time they need to arrive. And they have to, because you're live. If somebody is late or they don't show up or they like, it can screw up everything. And then we also have a silent auction that's part of it. Some years there's been like 160, 180 different items that like probably everyone on this wall like donated and gave us, and people can bid on it. Sometimes it's like a buy it now type thing, but every penny goes to the dogs. I'm the one who has to do all of those listings because like we could hire somebody to help, but then that's money being taken away from the dogs. So by the time the marathon would start, we would both be so exhausted that we were like dying, and then we got to stay away for 48 hours. But when we were young, that was fine. But after year 6, I got home, I started my shower and then went into my bedroom to get clothes and woke up on the floor. I had fallen through my nightstand and just fainted. So thankfully, like all I did was hurt like my elbow. I was fine. But what if that had happened 5 minutes later when I was in the shower and I was living alone at that point?
Yeah.
But Joe, my partner in crime with the podcast, he fainted walking into his apartment and landed on the pavement and cracked his head open.
Oh, dear
so
God.
he had to go to the hospital where they had to keep him awake for a further 8 hours, I think, because he might have had a concussion. So
Right.
they couldn't let him fall asleep. And then we were like, no more 48 hours. So now it's a 48-hour marathon that is 48 hours worth of awesomeness in 24 hours. And so, for instance, Yorkie-thon 9, I don't know when this is going to run, but it's coming up July 25th through 27th. So Friday night, July 25th, we'll do 4 hours to kick it off, then 10 hours Saturday, 10 hours Sunday. And it is much better. And we still raise the same amount of money without killing ourselves.
Yeah.
So it just took us a little while to figure it out.
And where can people tune in? Like, where do you find Yorkie-thon?
So most people listen to the podcast on Spotify, wherever their favorite thing is, but you can't broadcast a live marathon, especially because Yorkie-thon's all on video.
Mm-hmm.
So usually the best place to watch it is my website, ariescope.com. It's on Vimeo. Last year it was simulcast to YouTube as well. So if you just go to ariescope.com or follow the Movie Crit podcast, there'll be links and all that stuff.
I love how active your guys' YouTube used to be, like especially the Scary Sleepovers, which I think was so ahead of its time. I mean, you've mentioned before, and it's true, podcasts are kind of like Facebook pages. Everybody's got one now. And to see that interview template that everybody is so used to because of Joe Rogan and all these other guys done at a sleepover, it's I think the best idea, and I think it was years ahead of its time. I think if you brought it back today, it'd be 50 times more successful.
Yeah. Thank you for your kind words. Scary Sleepover was such a good time. And I don't know what I was thinking, but there was like, because usually the Ariscope YouTube channel, it's just for the Halloween short. Like, I have no desire to be a YouTuber or an influencer or like anything with that world. But it was just a platform to put that year's Halloween short. I think this year is going to be our 28th year doing the Halloween short. Shit, we're so old.
How much do those cost to put together?
Nothing.
Really?
Nothing. Like, that's the whole thing. No budget, one night, whatever we come up with. And some of
Like
them,
you shoot it all in one night?
last year we broke it up over two because the makeup, last year's involved Sea Monkeys.
Yeah.
And the makeups took so long to put on. So we did all their stuff one night and then the other stuff another night. But usually, yeah, I'd say probably most of them, it was one night. And some of them we're really proud of. Other ones we finished. But you just never, and it's always something different. Like, you have no idea what it's going to be. And then we just release it. And something like Jack Chop will do like almost 1 million views in like 4 days. But then something that I personally think is so much better, like Monster Problems, is one of my favorites, with Derek Mears and Colton Dunn and Kelly Verman as the monsters trying to eat the kid. But it was basically, what if everything you do as a kid, like having a nightlight or hiding under your covers, if that works? And like, monsters are useless against that stuff. And they're just like, damn it. That one, and that one's done really well. I think it's well over like 600,000 views or something like that, maybe.
Right.
I haven't looked in a long time, but it is funny which ones just suddenly take off and which ones don't. And like, you can't predict it.
Right. Well, Jack Chop just fits that like perfect YouTube kind of style content, like a parody on the Slap Chop.
I guess, but it wasn't intentional. Like, the real story behind Jack Chop is we were shooting Hatchet 2 or Frozen, I think it was Frozen. And our Frozen was in post, and we were, because Hatchet 2 and Frozen were made the same year. And I think we ran out of time, and it was like, fuck, it's October, we got to make a short. And because Paul Solet and I had been doing the Boston accents on the set of Grace the year before, I just wrote it really quick, and I'm like, just be that guy. And because it's not even that original, like him maiming himself while he's trying to do something. SNL had done that 30 years, 40 years before. We thought it would just be funny to us because we're from that area, and the accent. That whole short is Paul's amazing performance, and he's nothing like that. I can't stress, if you watch any interviews with him, he's like the most like reserved and quiet and like very intelligent, and like,
because I only see him with the Boston accent because he was in Holliston as the same character. Pretty much.
Speaking of that, I don't know what just made me think of this, but in bringing him in for season 2 of Holliston, we were just so lucky that he was available, that he could come and do it. He was so funny. But there's an episode called The Holliston Hobgoblin where we're trying to make a found footage movie because we think, well, that'll be easy. We won't screw that up. And of course we do. But Solet his character, Nicolo, is supposed to be like a man on the street being interviewed. So we had to make up a name for him. Our characters had to make up a name for him. And the best random name we could come up with was Michael Jackson. And a lot of people don't see that till like the 5th, 6th time they watch it, and we'll get, comments on social media like, I just noticed Nicolo's name. Like that's probably the most famous name in the world, like the worst thing you could have picked, but that Adam and Joe thought, yeah, this will seem real.
It's like Superbad. Yeah. He was like Muhammad.
Yes.
But that's one of my favorite part about all your films is your selection of your cast. I mean, I think Perry Shen is the best part of the Hatchet series up until Schneiderman stepped in. I think
Who's not
Schneiderman's
an
my
actor.
favorite. Dude, he's an actor in my book. That was wonderful.
When he was my assistant, Cody Snyder, on Frozen. So because Dee Snyder is his father, and like that was how I met Cody at Tribeca when Hatchet premiered. And he was like, I want to do what you do. I want to be a filmmaker. And then when he got into film school, it's like, hey, if you want to like intern on Frozen. And he ended up, when he got back to school, leaving school because he's like, I can't sit through these classes. I just was on a real set making a real movie. I need to go do that. I don't have time for this. And that was a difficult call because Dee and Suzette called and they're like, so he's thinking we give him the tuition money so he can make a short. Like, do you think that's a good idea? I'm like, do not involve me in this decision. Like, I don't know. And then Cody goes and makes a World War II epic. Like, who does that? Shot on film. And it was like one of the best short films I've ever seen. It was called All That Remains. I'm not sure if it's online, but just festival after festival. Anyway, on Frozen, he told a story about what it's like being Dee Snider's son growing up. And he's like, everywhere we would go in public, he's like, I would get caught in like the wake of people all surrounding my dad. And he goes, and inevitably some guy would always come up to me and be like, yo, you know who's here right now? You know who's here? Fucking Dean Schneiderman. Dean Schneiderman from Kiss. And I thought that was so funny. So we just started calling him Schneiderman. And so when we did Hatchet 3, it's like, I got to bring Deputy Schneiderman into this. And Cody's like, well, I'm not an actor. I'm like, just be you.
Yeah.
Like, and it worked out so well. Like I love that. I love that kid so much.
I mean, it may have been him just being himself, but it's also you as the director because the director is kind of the foundation of everybody's performance. Like you are kind of the rock that they stayed anchored to.
I've been really lucky though, where in most cases I've been able to know who I was going to cast before I even wrote it. So I can write to these various actors' strengths. A great example of that in the fourth Hatchet, Felissa Rose's character, when she did Scary Sleepover, she told a story about her first agent and she started impersonating her agent. And like, that's when I came up with the character of Kathleen. Like, I'm like, just do that, impersonate your agent. Or even like Brian Quinn, because people are like, the dude from Impractical Jokers, is he an actor? I'm like, he's in front of cameras all day. He knows how to be natural in front of a camera. I just need I'm not going to make him try to do a Southern accent. He's got the Long Island accent. I'm like, just be you and be natural and it works. But it's not always like that. Like the movie I just did, this is only this one that I'm doing now is only the second one that I didn't originate the script. Like I did a rewrite on it, which is every director does that, like a director's pass. But so I get like handed this thing, I rewrote it, and then you start meeting with actors. And it's like, I don't know, this part could go a number of different ways. Like, it's not like I don't like doing that.
Well, this cast is a bit different than what you usually go with.
Well, yeah, because there's really 5 characters, probably 6 characters total in the whole movie, but like 5 like main ones. One of them is Bill Moseley, who I've worked with before and I've known for, 2 decades at
On
this
Holliston.
point. Yeah, and I wrote that part with him in mind when I did my rewrite. But the other ones, like, it was funny because like when the world shut down in 2020, it had already been 2 years since I had made anything because I was working on Killer Pizza. Then that didn't happen, and then the next thing got sidelined because of the strike, and then so it was like years are going by now, and I was literally like, I guess I'm done. Am I retired? Like, and is this how it happens? Like, you're the last one to realize you're retired, but I guess it's just over because everything just kept going wrong. And it's nobody's fault. Like, a global plague, like, who saw that coming? And then, like, the strike happening right as things were starting to come back. And then that was a year gone. And, like, these things take so long to get moving. And now all of a sudden with Ascent, not only was I turning 50 on like the last day of shooting, but it's the first time I was the old guy. Like I was always the young guy. I was always, I don't know how to describe it, but like it felt like everyone else on the set was a lot older than me, or at least my age.
You were working with like veterans of the industry.
But I'm even just talking about the crew, the grips, the electrics, it always, it never felt like there was anyone younger than me. I'm sure there probably, there were a couple, but then on this one, I think the youngest of the main cast was like 26 and maybe the oldest was like 31, 32, I think.
Damn.
Which still, I still look at myself like that.
Yeah.
And we were shooting this scene. I don't want to like spoil stuff, but like there's a scene with two characters in a car and we're shooting on a process trailer. So we're in a flatbed in front of them and the car like has been like de-rigged and like the tires are off of it and that's on a flatbed and we're pulling it. Just, it's not anything new. That's how they've shot cars. Although these days everyone does green screen.
Or those LED panels. Have you seen those recently?
Yeah, well, the volume sets are really good, like what they used on like Mandalorian and stuff. Like they're really good. They're just really friggin' expensive. But I wanted to do it like the old school way and have them really driving like really outside. And one of the characters is his flaw and why he and his girlfriend have broken up is he quits everything he starts. He can't stick to one thing. He's always got these big ideas, but he doesn't follow them through. They never happen. And she's like, I don't see myself getting married to this guy. Like, what kind of life is this going to be? Like, he just won't grow up. One of the ideas that comes out that he had was for a hair metal social media app. And he's like, oh, that would have been huge. And like, and the thing is, I think in some other countries it would be because that music is still huge. Not so much in the US anymore, although it's definitely made its comeback. But maybe that's also me looking at it with rose tinted glasses because that's my jam.
Well, these reunion tours are doing it too.
They're doing really good. Stadium tours and cruises and all the stuff they do. Anyway, there's a callback to it a few minutes later where he points at something and mentions a specific band. And the band he was supposed to mention was Warrant. And because he's got a British accent, Warrant didn't sound, we were like losing the T. It was like Warrant each time. And I'm like, fuck, this isn't going to work. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have you say a different name band this time. And he goes, could I just say, I think he said, could I just say the name of a real band? And I'm like, Warrant was a real band. And you can, they're mics, so I can hear everything they're saying to each other. And they're just like whispering. And I'm like, God damn it, Cherry Pie. You know the song Cherry Pie? No, neither one of them knew it. I'm like, have you ever been into a strip club? They play it every 18 minutes. Like it's like policy. They have to.
Right.
And no, they don't know it. I'm like, fine, say Twisted Sister. So this time he's like, see that place right there? Sister could be playing. And I'm like getting so mad. And the crew that's with me is like my usual people, and they're laughing so because they can see this is killing me. I'm like, stop the car, and I get out, and I'm like, it's Twisted Sister, and they're like, what is it? I'm like, come on, you don't know Twisted Sister? And I march over to like another set of crew people, and I'm like, come on, you guys know Twisted Sister, and I'm in Malta, right? So these are like mainly Maltese people. I'm like, you know Twisted Sister, right? And they're all just shaking their head at me like, no. So I pull up my phone, I start playing We're Not Gonna Take It, and everyone on the crew starts singing it. I'm like, that's Twisted Sister. And then the cast is like, oh, well, we Spotify things. I'm like, it says the name of the artist? And they're like, oh, we don't look at that. Like, fuck. And I'm like, God, I feel so old.
Well, Spotify is like changing the way we listen to music because back in the day, you'd get an album and it was like, yes, I can't wait to listen to this front to back. Now it's all playlist based.
I know.
So the idea is that you just skip around between everything.
Yeah. And that's another thing that made me feel because I started lecturing them on like why you need the vinyl and why you need to have the physical. And they're just all staring at me like, I don't know what you're talking about. But everything I would reference, it felt like they hadn't seen it, hadn't heard it, didn't know what I was talking about. And I just was like, when did I become the old guy? But the one saving grace was I always take the cast of each movie, like we all go to the movies before we start filming. And it doesn't matter what movie we see. It's just to have everyone sit together in the dark in a theater and watch. And like I'm trying to think of some examples, but I think before Hatchet 2, before we started filming that, I think we went to see Avatar.
Oh yeah, because of Joel.
Yeah. Because it was also cool to see the lead of the last one in a movie like that. You
You're
know?
like, hey, this could be you.
And then for Frozen, I think we went to see Coraline. Like, it doesn't need to be like what we're shooting. It's just about sitting together in a theater. And for this one, there were only 2 theaters in Malta, and they were all showing Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And as much as it doesn't matter what we watch, I'm like, I can't do this. So
Did you watch the first 2?
no,
Maybe a smart move.
look, I have nothing against it. It's just, that's just not my thing. I don't watch Marvel movies. Like,
Right.
so like, I'm not a good person to gauge. That always pisses people off too. Like, what's your problem? I'm like, I don't have I know they're good. I know people love them. I'm just like, anyway. Yeah. So thankfully the place doing our visual effects had this incredible theater with this amazing sound system and screen. And I was like, could I borrow this theater on Friday night to show the cast something? And now I'm like, I can show whatever I want. So I get up in front of, they have no idea what we're going to watch. And I'm like, this movie came out in 1982, 13 Academy Award nominations, written by the great Melissa Matheson, who wrote The Black Stallion. I'm just waiting for something to dawn on their faces. Edited by Cara Littleton. The DP was Alan Davio. Christ.
It's cricket still.
Like, starring Henry Thomas, Drew Barrymore in her very first role, Dee Wallace. I swear to God, they knew who Drew Barrymore was, but I don't think they knew she was an actress. I think they think she's a talk show host. And then I'm like, directed by Steven Spielberg. Just staring at me. I'm like, it's E.T. It's fucking E.T. And they're like, okay. None of them had seen it. And anyway, they loved it. They absolutely, I mean, how can you not? It's like one of the greatest movies ever made. But what was shocking to me was when it was over, Mosley leans over and goes, oh, that was good. I'm like, you've seen it before, right? He's like, no, I've never seen it. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
He's like, I've seen scenes. I don't know. I just missed it. I skipped it. So yeah, but I'm the old guy, I guess.
That's how it works, dude. I mean, fucking Twitter is just a cesspool of negativity, so I try not to get on it. But whenever someone will say something stupid, you'll get a bunch of retweets of people like, oh, what are you, fucking 30? And I'm like, at 31, like, Jesus Christ, is that old now? You see it all over comments on TikTok. Like, oh, look at this 30-year-old acting cool. It's like, fuck, I didn't think 30 was old.
No, when you're not 30, it does seem old. But then when you're 50, it seems so young.
Yeah, but you still look young. What is your skincare routine? What do you do exactly?
My skincare routine?
Were you just born with good genes?
I think I was born with good genes. Oh, but I do, I have to color my beard now.
I'm getting a little salt and pepper myself, so don't feel bad.
I don't I have gray in my hair and stuff. I don't care. Like, I'm fine with it, but it's just the Hitler look.
Oh shit.
Not very becoming.
No,
so,
not at all.
Yeah, so I have to either be clean shaven or I have to put stuff in it, which yeah.
Well, you know, and they say time flies when you're having fun. And when you look back at your career, I mean, the last 2 decades of it had to have just been a complete blast, you know, working with all your friends, casting your favorite people. And what I love about Hatchet is that you were casting, you know, these horror icons before it became a hokey kind of thing to do.
Yeah. Hatchet wasn't the first movie that had Robert, Kane, and Tony in it. That was technically Wishmaster. But
when did Wishmaster come out? That was 90s or 80s?
I think it was early 90s.
Okay.
This is why it always helps to have Joe Lynch next to you, because he knows not just the year, but the like actual day it came out. At the time, I never thought that would work out, but John Buechler was actually the first person involved with Hatchet, because Sarah Albert, who's the one who kind of put it all together, she had just produced the Friday the 13th box set, that weird box set.
Which one was it? The one with like the orange fiery.
Yeah,
fucking-
and it only had 8 of the movies,
Yeah.
and it was like she just worked for the company that got hired to put it out. And so she was, when she read Hatchet, everyone in town had passed on it. It got me
Who'd you send it to?
everybody, every studio. My agent sent it to everybody, and it got me a lot of work. Like people liked it, but they weren't going to make it because they're like, slashers are dead, and you got to pick a lane, like either funny or graphically violent, but you can't do both.
Do you think they were actually dead, or you just think that the ideas kind of started to suck after a while?
Well, like anything, any trend, eventually it cannibalizes itself, and then the audience is ready to move on from it. And then usually about 15 years later, somebody will kind of bring it back around again. And then everyone will be like, oh my God, yeah, I missed this. This is fun. Look at like music. People always want to say like grunge killed hair metal killed hair metal. It had become a parody of itself. All the band, like if you had a good looking lead singer with like long blonde hair, you got a record deal. Like it's just like thrown and don't get me wrong, I think most of them were better musicians than the grunge bands. You know what's interesting? We just did a pre-show for one of our live things, and it's always like a different theme. And it was Billboard Hot 100, like #1 songs. If you had to guess how many weeks Smells Like Teen Spirit and Enter Sandman stayed at #1, because it's the same amount of weeks, what would you guess?
Fuck, 40.
0.
Jesus.
Smells Like Teen Spirit only made it to #6. I think Enter Sandman was #12. But Ice Ice Baby,
Yeah.
#1. So you look
Wow.
back at American culture, and it's songs that you're like most people would say Smells Like Teen Spirit started a whole movement. It changed everything, and it did. And like no grunge band ever had a #1. Not for top 40, I think that's different, but for Billboard, which is like that's the thing.
Right.
But I think hair metal was already, people were just over, they wanted something new. When I first heard Nirvana on the radio, I thought it was a hair metal band. I'm like, he screams like them. He's like but the drum beat was fucking awesome. And I'm like, I love this. Whatever this is, I got to get this. I didn't think, oh, everything's different now, but it was. So I think same thing with horror. Like in the 80s, the slasher was king. And then just by the time you're getting to like part 9 and 10 of sequels, and even the audience is kind of laughing at it for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to see because I love all of them for different reasons. Whenever somebody wants to be like, oh, but come on, like Halloween Resurrection is terrible. And I'll be like, yeah, but there's that one thing that's really cool. And like any chance that I get to see Michael Myers on a big screen and hear John Carpenter's music, I'm happy. Like, I might not like the movie, like in some cases or whatever, but like, I'm just so happy it exists. And like,
glad you
I'll
feel
always
that
be there
way.
to support it.
Well, because, you bring this up a lot. There was a lot of toxic negativity when it comes to horror. Like people are just so quick to hate on something
That's
before they've
just
seen it.
online though. And
Yeah.
online isn't real. And I hope people realize that, especially the people who get bothered by it.
Uh-huh.
Like when somebody wants to come at you for something, like if somebody who watches your show will be like, you suck, whatever. Like consider the source. Like, what is it about this individual that you respect so much that you care what they think? And then you'll be like, I don't even know this person. Right.
Yeah.
Fuck them. Like it's not real. It doesn't matter. But I feel like there is that on social media with horror where if something has a lot of buzz because of a great festival run or early preview screenings, or it opened really strong, immediately behind that is this fucking sucks. It's not, I don't get it. It's not like, all right, man, you win. You're the better fan because you don't like the thing that other people like. I don't, it doesn't all have to be for you.
How
but
much
isn't
of it
it
do you
great
think-
that it exists?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan, you should want to see different iterations. Like when the new Child's Play came out, everyone was pissed. And I was like, dude, Mark Hamill's going to voice him. I didn't end up liking it, but I was
But you
excited.
still have the original if that's your thing.
Exactly.
We kind of talked about this when we had dinner last night. But like, I remember getting so much shit for defending Rob Zombie's Halloween. Now, look, my Halloween is John Carpenter's Halloween. It's like, that's my like chicken soup. That's my comfort movie. Like that is the holy grail of slasher films, I think. The Blu-ray for Hatchet, there's a review that they put on the cover that says the Holy Grail of slasher films. And I was so against that because I'm like, Halloween is the Holy Grail of slasher. Anyway, but
Well, that makes a point right there. I mean, these headlines and these like one-liners that they'll grab. I mean, these horror media companies sometimes blow movies so far out of proportion that like it'll never live up. Like they call it long legs, Silence of the Lambs. And it's like, you guys are building it up too much. Don't do that.
Yeah. The last two movies I put out were like a surprise. No one even knew I was making them. Because like I would prefer to just suddenly have the thing be there. And like the day that you learn about it, you can see it. And there's no hype and there's no anything. There's no expectation. Just see it for what it is. And the first one, to go back, I think what Rob Zombie did was make his version of that story with that character. It didn't erase the original. This is a new telling of it. And what I really love about the remakes was that now these characters are becoming the modern like universal monsters. And these stories will hopefully get retold every so many years by new voices and new visions for it. No, it's not as good as to me, because I'm old, as we've already established. But like people loved it. And especially younger people, they love that version of it. So fucking get off the guy's dick already. And then when like a script leaked, like a first draft of the script, and somebody, was it A. Nicole News? Like reviewed the script. Nobody can review a script. You have no idea what the movie's going to be. And I was so mad about that. But at the same time,
and that made you like keep all your screenplays under wraps. Like you don't have them just out there on Script Slug. You keep them private.
No, we keep them as private as we can. Like lately, it's at least in the last 10 years, it's always like fake titles. Like the crew doesn't even get a script sometimes. The cast sometimes doesn't see the ending that's in it. Everything's like super watermarked. And you just got to be careful because one person sends it to a friend who sends it to a friend. And like they don't mean to get it out, but then it's out there. And then everyone thinks they know, like, I don't know. Same thing with trailers. And it's like, we don't need 4 trailers for each movie. One trailer, don't show everything in it. But the counter to that is you have to show almost everything you have. At least this is the studio mentality, because they don't care if you go to see it and you say, oh man, but everything was in the trailer. They got your money. Like that's what it's about. So they're going to throw everything they can at that trailer to get you to be like, all right, fine, I'm in.
Right.
Whereas I would like on the trailer for Frozen, I did not want them to show a wolf, because if that first screening at Sundance, if you didn't know that that's where the movie was going, in the moment when Ziegler pulls his hands down and there's a wolf in his face, the screams and the jumps from the audience. But if you've seen the trailer and you've read reviews, you're waiting for wolves.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Even with Ascent, the one I'm in post on now, something leaked early that called it a shark attack movie. It's not. It's a movie about characters trapped in a hot air balloon. But now that that's been out there and then it keeps getting recirculated, I'll get comments on like Instagram from people, can't wait for your shark movie. So now when people see the movie and there's barely a shark in it, they're going to say it was a shitty shark movie. It's not a shark movie, but that's what you think it's going to be now. So hopefully at this point, that movie probably won't be out till next year. Mm-hmm. And so maybe by then people will forget. But every time a website writes an article, they link back to the original like announcement,
right,
which was incorrect. And so like, this is what I mean. Like you just at a certain point, you can't micromanage and control all of it. Stuff's going to happen and you can't let that completely beat you down. You gotta do your best with what you can do your best with, but the stuff that's beyond your control, especially when it comes to the release of a movie. Speaking of Frozen, I can't prove this, but I think distributors purposely show the filmmaker the trailer and the poster at the last possible second so that they can act like they really did care about your input, but also be like, oh, it's too late. So why did you even show it to me at all?
Right.
And with Frozen, I really liked the poster And I'm like, I just have a couple tiny things. I'm like, the chair's on the wrong side of the lift. I'm like, I know aesthetically that looks good, but it's on the wrong side. Could we just move it? They're like, no. Okay. Why? Because we're not. Okay. All right. Well, my other thing is you added in Photoshop a belt on Shawn Ashmore's character. He doesn't have a belt. And they're like, that just looks good. I'm like, right. But you know what? If he had a belt, he could get down. So it's a big problem that you have that on the poster, because there's going to be people who, because they see it on the poster, think he was wearing a belt in the movie. Skiers don't wear belts. At least most don't. You have snow pants on and stuff. And nope, not taking that off either. And I just gave up. I'm like, all right, well, I guess this is the poster then.
Yeah.
And there were comments. I still get them to this day. Dude could have just used his belt to get down.
Yeah, it's always so fascinating to me how much control like studios or distributors have. Like the fact that the filmmaker, the man who wrote and directed the film, couldn't tell them where to put something on the poster is always so surprising to me.
I mean, I do think there's a different skill set for certain things, and you would hope whoever is doing the marketing that they know marketing better than you. You would hope. And at a certain point, I do think it's healthy to try to trust that they do know what they're talking about more so. For instance, I remember complaining as a kid, The Three Amigos, that movie came out, and that was my birthday movie that year. So my friends and I, my mom dropped us off at the movies to see Three Amigos. And the only joke in that movie that I hadn't already seen in a commercial or a trailer or just on TV, somebody reviewing it, the only joke was shooting the invisible swordsman, because there was no way to quickly do that joke, I guess. And I was really let down first time I saw it, because I'm like, I already knew every joke in this. But then Disney did a study 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and audiences laugh harder if it's from what they saw in the trailer, and they're waiting for the moment. Like a good example was The Hangover, Zach Galifianakis with the baby Bjorn and the baby getting hit with the door. People laughed harder at that, even though they had seen it again and again and again in every commercial and every trailer. They were waiting for it. So it's hard when whether you're a filmmaker or just a total nerd like us who lives for this stuff, and it's precious to you and you don't want it spoiled and you don't want to know too much and you want to enjoy the discovery of something. But for most people, watching movies is just something fun to do. They either like it or they don't. It's not their whole life. They're not going to lose sleep over it. And you need to get them. You got to show them something again and again and again so they'll remember it and hopefully go out of their way to pay attention to it.
Well, and I guess now that I think about it, you have had more control on your films than I think a lot of people get to experience.
I have in many ways on the creative side, because it's all been independent until it came time to sell to a distributor. Technically, the last 3 Hatchet movies were studio movies, and that Dark Sky was the financier and distributor, but they're not a movie studio or whatever. And for the most part, creatively, they always just sort of let me do what I wanted to do. There's been a couple little battles here or there, like the penis scene in the last one.
Was that a real penis?
Yes.
Dude, the way the ball inflated was way too realistic.
To this day, we still don't understand what was happening.
Movie magic
there. But that actor, Whit Spurgeon, what a funny, just great, brave guy. Because that's, especially when we were meeting with people for the part, because they'd be like, well, do you need to see it? I'm like, no. It doesn't matter what it looks. It's just the idea that this guy's going to do this at a signing and we're going to show it. And to this day, it's probably happened many times now where people come up to Perry Shen and they no one's actually taken it out, but they pretend like they're going to. But yeah, so the book that Perry's character is promoting in Victor Crowley, I was like, we should really write the book. How great if you could watch the movie and then read the book like it was a real thing. and that it fills in the 10 years between Hatchet 3 and 4. And for those who have read it, it kind of starts to set up where things could potentially keep going. And it ties certain things together that the movies don't.
How was that experience for you? I mean, you're used to writing screenplays, but how was it diving into a book?
I loved it, and I wish that writing novels could be an actual career for anyone other than Stephen King, because unfortunately, like, your chances of being able to make a living at it, like, I applaud those who can, like, not just novelists, but like artists, like actual artists who paint stuff. The ones who are able to like survive just doing like their art, I'm in awe.
Yeah.
But I loved writing that book. I wrote it with Joe Netter, who the only reason that happened was Joe Netter is a friend of mine, and he does write books. And I needed a name of a ghostwriter. Normally I just stick my high school friends' names in everything. Like Scott Barnes, that name comes up in all my
Speaking
stuff.
of Scott Barnes, I sent you a fucking yearbook
Yes.
that I was like, my girlfriend was like, oh, that's so cute. I wonder if he's seen that before. I was like, I don't think so. This guy named Scott Barnes posted it, and his name's Adam Green. It's like when you first get a car, when you first learn a new word, you start seeing it everywhere. Rewatching your films, I'm like, oh, Scott Barnes, Scott Barnes, Scott Barnes.
Yeah. He's one of my best friends from growing up, and I just always throw his name in because sometimes you need to reference somebody who's not actually in the movie or anything, but the more specific you make the name, the better it works. Other than just constantly referring to somebody as your old neighbor every time you talk about, like, to say the name. And so if I'm going to need a name, it's Scott Barnes. And Hitler even yells it in Diary of Frankenstein at one point. A funny Scott Barnes joke, in the original Hatchet, Mercedes McNabb's character, Misty, hears her cell phone ringing, and she goes and picks it up. And instead of calling for help, the first thing she does is look at what calls she missed.
She's like, ew,
I
Scott
love this.
Barnes
And
called
she
me.
goes, ew, Scott Barnes called me. So Scott Barnes is in the theater with his friends in San Diego. He has no idea that's coming. And when it happened, he and the people he was with were like, what? Did she just say your name? And he's like, why did it have to be, ew, Scott Barnes called me? And I'm like, because that's funny and that's her character.
Yeah.
And so in the fourth Hatchet, if you look closely, so Felissa Rose has that epic death of her arm being ripped off and shoved up through her. And then the phone is still in the mouth. And then a few minutes later, Victor Crowley smashes Felissa's head into the plane window, and the phone is still there. And Laura Ortiz goes over to get it, and it starts ringing. If you look closely, it's not just Scott Barnes calling, but it's his photo this time. And he was like, now you're putting my picture and shit. And I'm like, I'm going to put your real phone number up on screen soon. Like,
Yeah.
But it's just like this joke between us. What was the point of this, Scott? How did Scott Barnes come into this?
We were talking about, oh shit. Fucking Perry Shen's book, maybe?
Oh, yes. So I needed the name of a ghostwriter for Perry to name check. And you hear him go, fucking Joe Netter. And so then I'm like, we should really write this. And I should write it with Joe Netter. Because if you notice with that book, it doesn't have my name until the very last page in credits. Like, you're supposed to think Andrew Young wrote. Only I would spend the time writing a novel and then purposely not take any credit for it.
Yeah.
But it was just something cool for the fans. And I called Netter over to the office because, remember, no one knew we were making Victor Crowley. So the movie was done. We were still just finishing post. So I'm like, I'm going to tell you something that you can't tell anybody. I'm like, I know you've seen the Hatchet movies. Do you like the Hatchet movies? And then he shows me this huge Victor Crowley tattoo he has. He's like, yeah,
Wow.
you could say I like him. And I was like, this is going to work.
Yeah.
And so he and I like beat out the whole story. And then like I took my chapters, he took his, and then we traded off, and like, it's a great experience. And I'm really proud of the book. I think it's it's surprising to some people because there's really only one chapter with like violence and gore and stuff. Because remember, Andrew Young, Perry's character in Hatchet 3, he saw what he saw, but he lived because he hid, which is what you should do. Like, don't keep going back where the thing's from, like hide somewhere. Which Marcus had it right in the first one, climb a tree. Because every time I'd watch slasher movies, I'm like, climb up. Like, at least you'll be able to see them coming. Although, you know, they would just suddenly be behind them and grab them and throw them off the tree. Still, Perry, but Andrew Young didn't really see that much. Like, he saw like the one big massacre when all the cops got killed, and that's in there. But what's great about writing a novel is you can talk about things that a movie can't as well. For instance, one of the things I remember enjoying, if I don't know if that's the right word, but realizing when I was writing it is Andrew Young talks a lot about how you could smell Victor Crowley before you saw him. Like he smells so bad, like a dead, rotting goat.
Fuck yeah.
And then the smell of all the intestines and dead bodies and how he was like throwing up and having to swallow it to try to like stay hidden. It's much more graphic than the movies in that way, but that's just like one very big chapter in the book. The rest of it is his life story. Most importantly, that he got blamed for what happened. Like, he was the only survivor they found. And he keeps saying he knows there was a girl there too, but he doesn't know what happened to her and where she went. Which, should the series ever continue, that's going to come to a head because Mary Beth got out of there and nobody knows she was there. But she watched this guy get like, it was like an OJ trial because like 40 something people like ripped to pieces. And this guy's a paramedic, but he didn't do it, but he was there.
Yeah.
And it was a ghost, really. So he ends up not necessarily being proven innocent, but they can't prove him guilty. They can't prove that he did it. So he walks, and now he's like the most hated guy in the world, which is why he wrote this book to try to defend himself. But he keeps mentioning in the book, there was a Jane Doe. There was a girl who was put in jail briefly. And like, where did she go and who let her out? And like, where is she? Because if she would speak up, then people would know I'm innocent. And she opts not to, obviously, because she doesn't want to get involved. So if there's more, that's going to.
Well, and you could get into so much more detail with writing. Like, I remember when reading your screenplays, especially with Hatchet 1, where you actually detail what Samson Dunstan's body looked like in the boat. Now, if you pause it, I'm sure you could see his intestines and all of his shit ripped off. But reading it, you're like, oh, that's what happened to him. Because you only see him dead.
It's very quick because it's like a kind of wider shot. And then it immediately goes right into his face.
Yeah.
So you only see, I do think we tilt down his body so you can see his lower half is missing. But yeah, reading something is always, and it's why everyone always says, oh, the book was so much better than the movie. Because the book was so descriptive and what you imagined. Like, sometimes the movie is like, oh yeah, that's how I pictured it. But other times it's like, oh man, I kind of thought it was cooler than that.
Well, that's why I really like reading screenplays, is because you actually put the movie together in your head. I never watched American Beauty before, and somebody recommended the screenplay. They were like, dude, it's like one of the best. So I was like, all right, picked up the screenplay before I watched the movie. And what I had in my head was a much better movie than what was made. Not that they didn't do a fantastic job, but it is interesting where your imagination could take you. And I used to be one of those people who disagreed. Like, nothing you could read is better than seeing it. But The Shining really is such a great example, not just because of that added detail, but there were like things you just don't have time to put in a movie.
Which is why Stephen King prefers Mick Garris's The Shining over Kubrick's. Because Stephen King feels that Mick's was closer to the book.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just don't know how you can find fault with Kubrick's because it's fucking great.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So, yeah.
What I was surprised about learning when it comes to your screenplays was how much stuff was actually on the paper. You know, like usually a lot of these films are improv, especially when you're working with comedy, but fucking almost everything has been written.
Thank you. This has been a running joke with the podcast audience for years because I had finally had enough of people would ask at like panels at conventions or whatever, they'd be like, so when he said that, like, were you just like cracking up? And I'm like, no, he said it because I wrote it. And like with Holliston especially, like, how did you not laugh when she said, because I wrote every single thing anyone is saying, I wrote. And this all stems back to my grandmother, may she rest in peace, my dad's mother, just no respect for anything anybody did, like none. And I remember calling her and she's like, well, what are you making a movie again? And I'm like, actually, I just finished one. It was Frozen. And then we're doing a sequel to Hatchet. Why? Who wants another one? And I'm like, well, the first one did really well, and they want another one, and I've always wanted to do a few of them. And she goes, well, nobody I know has even heard of it. She was 96, living in an old age home. If anyone there had heard of Hatchet, I would say something needs to happen. But she goes, you should be a country singer. And I'm like, why? She's like, because I was watching a country singer on the cable television. And he was standing there with his boots and his hat, and he had no talent. That's something you could do. Like, it's just every call was like this. But the best was, you should write for Seinfeld. I'm like, Nanny, it's been off the air for 9 years at the time of this phone call. And she's like, no, it hasn't. I just saw 2 new episodes last night, one at 7 and another at 11. I'm like, those are And she's like, have you ever seen Friends? We have it. It's a show here in Florida. And that Jennifer Aniston, the things that she comes up with, like, I don't know how she does it. I'm like, she doesn't. She doesn't come up with it. There's a whole team of writers. There's a whole group of people off stage who are coming up with that stuff. And she's just brilliant at delivering it because she knows the character inside out. And she's a great actress. Mm-hmm. That's how this works. No, I don't mean the story. I mean what she says. I'm like, that's what I do. So when Holliston came out and we were doing conventions and people would come up to Corey and Laura would always be like, well, Adam wrote that. No, Adam wrote that. Joe would be like, thank you. They say to him. But yeah, that was why I was excited when I knew you were going to read some of the screenplays that you were going to read Digging Up the Marrow, and this is like a total catch-22, because as a director and as an actor, the best compliment you can get is people saying it was improvised, because that means you actually did a convincing job.
Yeah.
But as a writer, you get all butthurt because you're like, it wasn't improv. Every single thing was scripted. We just did a good job of making you think we're improvising it. But you can't, you just got to take the win and be like, thank you.
Exactly. Well, and Ray Wise's performance added so much to that. And what aggravated me was hearing people go, oh, he was really annoyed with you. It's like, have you never watched a movie in your life before? Do you not know what acting is?
You know what? I don't know if this story is actually out there, but one of the best scenes between Ray and I is the very first time I sit down to interview him, where he doesn't know how he feels about me yet. I definitely think he's crazy. So what you see in the movie, we weren't in the same room.
Oh, wow.
What happened was we shot it and something was wrong. I want to say it was the makeup they put on me. It was all like orange spots. Something was wrong with it. And no one caught it till we got to post. And also, we could have just gone with it, because there's like a joke right before it where I'm more concerned about my makeup than anything else. And I'm like, put on more. But I think the way I played it, because I'm supposed to kind of be an asshole. I'm not the real me in it. I'm a little more
exaggerated
and kind of I don't know about this guy. I want it to be real so bad, but obviously the guy's every time you want to trust him, something happens that makes you completely think he's not telling the truth again. And Ray was so good at doing that subtly. But that first time we shot it, I came off way too much of an asshole. pushing him to, well, just get to it. Or like he's trying to tell a story about growing up. And I'm like, where are the monsters? Where like, so it was the same script, but just the way I played it. So we reshot all of my stuff weeks later, and it's just me talking to a C-stand.
I'd like to see
and
that
then
alternate version.
When you watch it, I don't know if it like exists. There was never like, because as soon as we started editing it, I realized like this isn't the right dynamic, and I look like Trump. Like there wasn't really a Trump then, but I'm like, my skin was all like orange. It just didn't look right, so we redid it.
There's
But
another note someone gave you. It was the comment you made to Will, and you were like, I don't care what your wife thinks. Funny line, great line. But someone was like, dude, it never recovered from that. And you guys shot the pickup scene where you're calling him in the middle of the night. And I was like, I'm glad they didn't include it because it wasn't necessary. And it was a funny joke. The point of the joke is that it's so offensive.
yeah, but I think when I'm like, I don't really care what your wife thinks. Like, it is a dick moment, but the characters of Adam and Will had to butt heads at some point, because otherwise Will just blindly keeps going along with whatever. But for him to finally like speak up, but then he's got such a great comeback when Sarah's like, you need to write the next season of Holliston. Like, we're all waiting on this. And I'm like, oh, maybe your wife can write it. And Will goes, well, it would be better. Like, so, but there was an early screening of it where people got so mad at me saying, I don't care what your wife thinks. So we actually didn't shoot it. It was just graphics. It's just a black screen and you hear the phone ringing and it's like subtitled, and you hear Will like waking up, and it's me calling him at like 2 a.m, trying to apologize, but I don't really know how to, but I just feel bad that I said it. And then he's like, I don't care, man. Like, why are you calling me? And I'm like, I didn't. He's like, you literally just called. And I just hang up. And it was funny, but the movie didn't need it. So we lost it.
I love that film. I mean, I was a scene kid in the early 2000s. So Alex Pardee was like my fucking Michelangelo.
He's
I mean, he did so many great album artworks for like
everything he touches is fascinating to me. And like, when I was saying earlier, like anybody who can make a living as an artist and like just an artist, like he is, and have you ever met him at anything? He's just the best.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a great experience making that movie, but we didn't know if it was going to work, which is why we never announced it or told anybody. If anyone asked, we would say, we're doing a documentary about monster art. And then immediately they would have no interest and leave us alone. Like, if you ever are trying to make something and you don't want people looking over your shoulder, use the words documentary and art, and they don't care.
Then you combine them. It's like a fucking double whammy.
Yeah. But I'm like, all right, we're going to set this in the real world and we're going to play ourselves, except for Decker. And that was months of back and forth. Cause I'm like, if we go with an actor, an unknown, then yes, people might believe it more, but I don't want them to believe it's a movie. Otherwise this becomes a hoax. And then at the 30-minute mark, when that first monster is revealed, it becomes, this isn't real. This is fake.
Yeah.
They didn't fool me. And like, no, we're not trying to fool you about anything. We're just suspending your disbelief in a slightly different way than you're used to. And it was kind of experimental in that regard. We weren't the first people to do a mockumentary, but I always am disappointed when people call it a found footage movie. A found footage movie is footage that was found.
If you guys would have died, like when your boot got stuck, I was like, man, I wonder if he toyed with like
But
mutilating
it was
himself.
edited. There was music.
Yeah.
There were graphics. There was
that's
like,
true.
there's only one shaky scene, which is that scene out in the woods when like we're running. The rest of the movie, it is shot like a documentary. It's presented as a documentary. But because there's like anything that isn't what you're used to, like found footage became the camera was shaking and that's, so yeah, it's a found footage movie. But literally the words found footage mean this was footage that was found, and then you're seeing it. This is what we found. Like, it hasn't been touched. There's no score. There's no anything. So every time someone's like, oh yeah, it's a found footage movie, I'm like,
Yeah. Dude, I really fucking love what you did with it. I mean, going to the conventions, I loved Mick Garris's scene and Tom Holland's scene in the movie. In fact, didn't you shoot a little bit in Tom Holland's backyard, or was that a Hatchet
That was
movie?
Hatchet 3. We shot in Tom Holland's backyard for some of it. Yeah.
But that movie was great. I mean, going to the conventions and you know, the fact that it was like straight up guerrilla filmmaking, like you guys didn't get permits to shoot at like Porto's or any of the conventions you went to, right?
No. And well, the conventions didn't mind. Like we would just say, is it cool if we just film this? Or because everyone's filming at conventions and stuff. They don't really care. The only two places we probably could have gotten in trouble was that we filmed on the airplane when it was in flight, that bit like of us going to Boston to meet with the police chief, who that was an actor, obviously, like the guy is not a cop in real life, but he was so convincing.
He was.
The
I thought
Boston
he was a real cop
accent,
until the
you would
commentary.
totally think it's real. And it's kind of slightly out of focus and that drab background and stuff in an office. Like
Well, and his attitude, like, no, I don't know this guy. Sounds like a cop from Boston.
at the time we're sitting down and talking, it's the 10-year anniversary of Dig Up the Marrow. And when the movie first came out, we had toured with that. That was sort of the test run at touring with a movie. Cause like Kevin Smith had done it with Red State. And I was like, I think I have a pretty decent following. And Alex definitely has a big following. Like together, if we were to just go city to city with this, because what you don't want to do is have a distributor be like, and we're putting it out theatrically. And then it's on like a handful of screens. Nobody knows that it's actually out. And now they're able to be like, oh man, we spent so much money on the theatrical release. And it is making money doing well, but we still, we got to make all the, so it was like, no, we're going to do this. You just worry about home video. I just wish they had waited longer to put it out. Because I think what happened was we sat like the first 5 nights of the tour and we were going to do a lot more. But then the early reviews were really positive. And so if I'm remembering correctly, I might be wrong. RLJ was like, we're going to put it out and like now, like they wanted to put it out quick. And so we said, all right, then we'll just do these 5 cities and stop. In hindsight, we could have kept going for weeks because that was your one chance to see it on a screen. But we had the art exhibit, like Alex's art was there, and some like at least one of the monsters, Chicken, the little one that runs out, was with us.
With the full anus installed.
But you get to like go see the movie, see us talk about how we made it in the Q&A. But then as you leave the theater, we've set up the art exhibit in the lobby. So now you can look at all the original artwork and photos of like the making of, and then take your picture with one of the monsters.
Yeah.
And people loved it. Like it was such a great time and we should have just kept going. But we were like, well, if the movie's going to be available on DVD and Blu-ray and whatever, then why would anybody come see it in a theater? So because it's the 10-year anniversary, we were like hoping we could go do that again because we still have the art exhibit. We still have all the stuff.
Yeah.
And more people obviously know the movie now than when it first came out. But with my post schedule and Alex literally conquering the world every day, like I don't know yet. There's talk about a few states, so we'll see.
I mean, I really do love that like rock star mentality of going out there, making it, and then not self-distributing it, but I guess self-premiering it in different locations. I mean, you mentioned Kevin Smith, and it's like that model works really well for him because much like yourself, Kevin Smith, his followers are there for Kevin Smith. That's why I don't like when I hear certain things about saying that like, Digging Up the Marrow is self-serving. That's bullshit because number one, your fans are here because they like you. Holliston, I think, is a big part of that as well because, after watching it, you feel so much closer to you and Joe and Laura and everybody.
What's funny though with Digging Up the Marrow is the whole conceit was what could we do where we can completely control it? And it was like, well, so Alex's original art exhibit that had been done several years before we made the movie. When Alex does an art exhibit, most times it's not just here's some paintings on a wall, go walk around and look at them. There'll be some sort of story for it. And so I was doing a signing at a Fangoria convention for Hatchet 2, and people, like fans, everyone's just so nice. And sorry, my nose is all stuffy. They'll bring you gifts and like artwork they made for you or whatever. Like it's like overwhelming how incredible this is. But this one guy comes through and he's like, I just wanted to give you this and share my art with you. Like, just, thank you for the inspiration. And he walks away. And like, I keep all of it. I don't throw it out. Like, I just put it all in a bag. So that night I get home and I take out this pamphlet and it says Digging Up the Marrow, and I'm going through it and I'm like, I know this artwork. And I'm like, I have one of these, not from that at the time, but I have this guy's artwork in my office, like something I bought. And then I'm like, holy shit, that was him. That was Alex Pardee who came through my life. I didn't know what he looked like. And so I'm reading it, and cut to a few months earlier, like we were really disappointed that Frozen didn't get the support that it deserved when it got put out. Because that movie was intended for one place, and then that place went out of business right as we finished it. And we were like, awesome, because we knew we got into Sundance.
What do you mean by one place?
I don't want to name names, but Overture. They were like a big theatrical company for a few years, and
I could beep that if you want.
no, it's fine. I don't care. They don't exist anymore. It doesn't matter. That's the good thing about getting old. A lot of my stories, like, fucking come at me, man.
Yeah.
You don't even exist anymore. But yeah, Overture went out of business, and then we got into Sundance, and I was like, this is awesome. We have a skiing thriller in Park City, and we're a free agent. Like, this could go any number of ways. But Starz Corporation owned Overture. So when Overture went out of business, Starz was like, oh, you're in Sundance? Whoa. We're going to hold this and give it to our other company, Anchor Bay, who was precisely who we were trying to get away from after doing Hatchet, Spiral, and Grace with Anchor Bay.
Why?
Wonderful people, and I owe Anchor Bay so much, but they can't release a movie. They're gone now too as well.
Oh, shit.
They couldn't. They tried their damnedest, and they did the best they could have done. But without money, you can't release a movie. You just, there's always like, these rare exceptions of a movie that somehow breaks out or becomes this word of mouth thing. But that can't be your business model, is hoping all your films are going to do that, because they're just not. Anyway, I was like, remember how we did Coffee and Donuts? It was just us. Like, we have all these people. We got all this stuff. Like, there's got to be something we could do. And I got a fan letter from someone in Louisiana. At least they claim they're from Louisiana. And it was really creative, because it was basically saying Victor Crowley is real, and I fucked up the whole story. It was like kind of an angry letter, but in a nice way, because it was just like fan fiction. And it was basically saying, you set the movie in Honey Island Swamp. The real Victor Crowley was born nowhere near there. He's from this swamp. And there were pictures. But I remember showing it to Will and being like, this guy, what if we go interview him? And like, to prove Victor Crowley's real. But then very quickly it was like, you don't want to do something with that character and make it all like meta, and like this would just be weird, and like, who is this guy really? And Will's like, what happens when he deliverances you out in the woods? I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Probably shouldn't do this. But then I meet Alex and I see the Digging Up the Marrow pamphlet, and it's a former Boston police detective that had hired somebody and commissioned them to paint what he describes like seeing in the marrow. And I'm like, what if it's this guy? And what if the monsters are Alex's artwork? And like, called Alex. I'm like, so this is where we were already kind of going, but what if we merge the two, and instead of it being an actual fan, it's this guy? And he reached out because he's just trying to reach out to someone in the horror space who will listen to him. And then once I started writing it, the reveal that I'm the last person he reached out to everybody first. And there was a joke that we ended up not using. Because believe it or not, we were really careful to, as much as I'm technically the protagonist in that movie, if you really think about it, and Ray's the antagonist, but it can kind of go both ways, you know? It's like at a certain point we had to be like, let's say it wasn't us, right? And we're going to make up a fake independent filmmaker. Then we're going to have to make a fake office with fake posters and fake crew shirts that all our people wear. And like, wasn't the whole point of this, like, what could we do that only we could do? That's completely us. And like, that's what it was. So there was a early review out of, I think it was But-Numathon. And the reviewer wrote, this movie should just be called Look How Awesome I Am. Look how great my life is. Look how hot my wife is. And it's like now ex-wife, she's in that movie for seconds. And there's just the final shot of the movie, because we're in bed sleeping, I guess, because you can see that she has a nice butt, I guess, but that you watched that whole thing and that's what you took from it.
Yeah.
Like how unhappy are you with your own looks?
We're
like,
jealous.
That's what you took out of it. So you can't let that one bother you. But I was like, interesting that there are these monsters that you definitely have never seen before. These are completely original monsters. Ray Wise acting his fucking balls off. It's this totally different type of way of doing a movie, but all you care about is my ex-wife's ass. It's so, but there's plenty of people who see it who then discover that I'm actually a real filmmaker. They don't know Hatchet or Halston. They just saw Digging Up the Marrow on Tubi and liked the thumbnail and watched it. And then they learned, wait, that's a real guy. Those are real. So it's the type of movie, like it's not one of those things where you need to be aware of us in order to enjoy it. I think it helps if you already are a fan of that other stuff. But for many people that I've met at conventions, that was the first thing that they ever saw of mine. So they had no idea about Hatchet or any of that stuff. And then they went and found it. So,
well, you made the right choice. I feel like if it was you making a movie about some like random director who, you know, was just completely fictional, I don't think it would have worked.
We almost went that way, and we almost went not going with Ray and going with an unknown, because, and believe me, there's plenty of reviews that say positive things, and then they'll say their biggest mistake was casting Ray Wise. He's great, but I knew it was only a movie as soon as I saw him. And what were you going to say at the end of Act 1 when a monster shows up? Like, just leave it to us. I mean, let us make the movie, and then you either like it or don't, but don't try to tell us but it was a lot of second guessing. Like, what do we do here? But I know if we had gone with an unknown, given how convincing the first 30 minutes of the movie is, that a monster would show up, and that would be the whole thing. It's just, this isn't real. It's not real. It's not real. Like, of course it's not real.
Dude, your special effects team on that film, oh my God, what a fucking great job that they did with those monsters.
I still don't know how they did it, because there was so few people involved. Like, Alex did the drawings, Greg Aronowitz did the sculpture of it and made it exactly Alex's artwork. And then Robert Pendergraft had to now fabricate that stuff and bring it to life, sometimes with like several people in a costume or nobody in a costume. But the scariest one, so Josh Ethier is presented as the editor of the movie, but Josh just sort of did a rough assembly first, and then Will and I actually edited the movie. But because Josh is on screen playing the editor, everyone thinks, well, Josh obviously edited the whole thing. Josh is a phenomenal editor, but he also played two of the creatures, actually, but the one that's standing in front of the car with the bag on its head.
Oh, the Mothman?
And then all the arms open up.
Or wait, what was his name? Vance.
Yeah, there's some discrepancy there, though. Was that Vance, or was Vance the very first monster that we saw? So there's also a fan theory that Decker slept with Brella.
Yeah, she was a prostitute.
But the first 2 nights of the tour, that was the first question of the Q&A. And we were shocked. Because like normally when people ask what was in that locked room that Decker had? Was that his kid? Was that this? Was that that? Like, we won't answer. We're like,
There was a hole in the wall, so it had to have been an entrance to the marrow.
yeah, we're like, what do you think it was? But we purposely don't answer. And then there's a difference between making people think and letting them come up with their own like ideas and plot holes. Plot holes are things that don't add up and it doesn't make sense. But most people that I hear from who are fans of Marrow love the open-endedness of, well, what does that mean? And what could this be? And they have their own theories and they just want to tell you what they think it is. But then there's other people where if they have to think at all, they get so mad, like, just tell me every single thing I need to know. And that's the difference between the fan bases of some of the things I've done. One of my favorite stories was after the premiere of Hatchet 2, which world premiered in London. I'm talking to one of the coordinators of Fright Fest, Alan Jones, who's a great critic himself, been in the business a long time and like does not blow smoke. Like, he will tell you exactly how it is in a very British way. And the movie played so well. And I walk out and I'm like, well, that went well. And he goes, nah. And he goes, I'm like, what, Alan? What wasn't good about it? And he goes, no, it was fun. He goes, but how many times are you going to explain that Victor Crowley's a ghost? He comes back in the same state he was killed in every single night. He comes back again. You can't. How many times are you going to explain it? And there was a kid waiting to talk to me. He goes, I can't do the accent. I was going to ask you about that. So what, is he like a ghost? And I just look at Alan and go, that's my audience, man. Like, so different things for different people, but something about the effects and the monsters. Josh, the way Pentagraph built that thing, there were garage door springs, these really industrial heavy springs that Josh had to hold like this and then release. And the reason they had to be garage door springs is so they would snap into place and stay and not go like this. And so Josh can't see anything under that makeup. And he's got like body makeup and everything. And then Robert pulls the things down. He goes, hold them, don't let go. It'll take your head off. Like, and you got to keep your head perfectly straight when you and Josh can't see. God. So he's just trusting he's going to let these arms go and they're just going to do that. And I was just like, because normally there's like a whole crew and there's like, a medic standing there and there's like all this, like this was just us. It was very guerrilla. But I just remember being so scared, like, oh my God, if something happens to Josh, I'm going to fucking kill myself.
Well, your decision to go practical in almost everything that you do, it's amazing because of how much more expensive it is. It costs a lot of fucking money to do that.
I think on this new one that I'm in post on now, because once again, there was an easier way to do this. Again, a movie about characters 3,000 feet in the air on a hot air balloon. Any other hot air balloon movie that's ever been made or scenes, it was always on a soundstage on a green screen, because how can you safely do that? Enter me, who's like, I don't want to use the soundstage. I don't want to like, and so that's why when this conversation started, I was laughing because like with Frozen, that was supposed to be the hardest one we ever did. They were only 50 feet up in Frozen, which was fucking hard. Now we're telling a story where they're like infinitely higher than that. And we're not going to do it on a stage. So there's lots of tricks and things we did, but they're really outside. They're really in the air. And now I think I saved the production a shit ton of money, because if it had been on a stage, every shot is a visual effects shot, every single one of them.
Yeah.
We have to erase safety harnesses. We have to erase like certain ropes and stuff. Cause I mean, like you can't risk somebody dying. Like, but that's all like typical stuff for a movie. But like pretty much the majority of things people are going to see in this movie, like it's real. And you can tell because you know the difference between what real sun looks like and what it looks like on a soundstage, or like how often when the camera was swinging around that basket, the lens flared because the sun was directly in the camera. Like, and I don't know. I don't want to say too much else. I don't even know some of what we did maybe we're the first to do it. I don't know. I honestly don't. But there's a movie. Did you ever see Fall?
Yeah. They're on like a fucking, what is it exactly?
A radio tower.
Yeah, radio tower.
I have so much respect for that movie. And I'm so pissed I didn't see it when it came out. I didn't see it until I had accepted the gig directing Ascent. And then I was just like, all right, time to watch every survival thriller and just see, you know, how they did it. But that one especially, I was like, wow, they're supposed to be really high up. I'm curious about this. And when I watched it, I was like, these are either the greatest visual effects I've ever seen, or these girls are really up there. Like, there's no way they're really up there. There's no, SAG never would have approved it. Like, there's no way. That's too dangerous. How the fuck? So do you know how they did it? They built like, I think it was like 150 feet. Don't quote me on this. I didn't make the movie. I don't know. But it was like 150 foot, like top of the tower. And they put it on the edge of a cliff that was like a 1,500 foot drop.
God damn.
A sheer drop. And that way, when the camera is swinging around, the perspective is that they're 2,000 feet up. And then, yeah, there's some visual effects and stuff, but that's why it was so convincing. And like, people can say what they want about if they like the ending of that movie or whatever it is, but it just from a filmmaking like feat, I was just so impressed. And then it was like, all right, well, we can't exactly do that because our thing is moving. But what can I learn from how they did this? And I know they dealt with similar problems that we had, because like if the wind got, for us, if it got over 24 miles an hour, we were shut down because it was too dangerous. Because we had all these big things in the air, and we're like, well, whatever. When the movie comes out, I'm going to be very excited. And I hope there's like a good making of on the Blu-ray, but going back to what you were just saying about doing things practically, as great as visual effects and CG have gotten, at this point, the best thing you can hope for is practical with digital effects combined to clean it up and make it the best it can be. But audiences know like, I don't want to sound like I'm saying anything negative about it. But like, I think the Final Destination franchise, the CG effects are part of its aesthetic, and it's what fans have come to expect and know from it. And they're also doing such big spectacle things. You couldn't do it practically. I mean, the opening of the latest one up in that tower and the thing falling over, like, you're not going to do that for real. But there's certain things in it where, because Todd Masters, I believe, did the effects for Final Destination, I think. I'm pretty sure.
It's Dial Joe.
But I know that there was practical versions of the stuff. And then they must have kind of like with that remake / reboot of The Thing, where they did do it practically, but then they went in and they did too much digital. I don't know. It just didn't, nothing looked real. Even the stuff that I know probably was done practically. But I don't think that hurts that movie though, because that's always been the aesthetic of that franchise, which I don't think Final Destination gets enough credit, because how many other horror franchises are huge budget movies?
This one was more of like a controlled spirit.
Yeah.
Whereas in the other ones, it was always kind of just random. Like, it was almost like this death was hunting these people. Whereas before, it was just like the circumstances that they were in. One of the best deaths is when the kid walks out and he gets crushed by the big piece of glass they were hoisting.
Yeah.
The accidental nature of that could happen to anybody is great.
They're always fun to see in a theater though, man. Cause like almost every death gets a huge laugh
right
from the audience. And I just think it's nice when you can go have that communal experience and laugh at something so macabre as people randomly dying in horrific ways, but it's never mean. It's funny. Like, and yeah, it's going to mess with you because they're taking everyday things that could maybe happen and making you extra scared of them, but also letting you have a good time with it. And I think it's a fine balance to weave.
Yeah. With a lot of your films, I mean, thinking about some of the plots of them, you know, I try and put myself in your shoes and I'm like, well, what if I came up with this concept to lock people in do people know it's a hot air balloon? I'll cut it out if not.
Hopefully they do. As long as they're not saying it's a movie about a killer shark, I'm happy.
But even like Frozen, you know, getting caught in a ski lift, like I would stop myself. I'd be like, nah, there's no way. I feel like people would get too bored. But it's almost like you take that as a challenge. Like you take the limitation as the fuel to just make it.
With Frozen, I'd thought of the idea when I was in high school and I still skied. And I was really thinking of it because it was like the end of the night. I was by myself going up, and this is a place called Wachusett, which is a tiny little mountain. But I was going up and the chairlift stopped, and anybody who skis knows it happens all the time. It doesn't mean something's wrong. It just means somebody fell getting off at the top or had a problem at the bottom getting on, or maybe the wind is whatever. But they don't come on a loudspeaker and tell you, hey, we're shut down for 30 seconds because of this. It'll be going again momentarily. Nothing. And so I'm sitting there, and it was Sunday night, and Wachusett was only open Friday through Sunday. Maybe that's changed in the last 35 years or whatever. But unless it was like Christmas break, it was like weekends. And there was also a place called Ward Hill, if I'm remembering correctly, in Massachusetts that was like that. Anyway, but it was a Sunday night, and I remember looking, and there was nobody on the chairs in front of me, and there was nobody behind me. And I started to panic because I'm like, someone knows I'm here, right? Because I can't jump from this height. And in New England, it's all ice. Like, even if there's snow on top of it, underneath that, you're just like, skiing is such a stupid activity, man. Like, who thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to strap my legs to these wooden boards
Separately.
And I'm going to slide down the side of a mountain on ice. What's the worst that could happen? But at least I knew my fellow students would realize, somebody would know I'm not on the bus, and they would figure out where I am. But I really panicked, and then I never went skiing again. And some of that was because it was a combination of things. It was, this is stupid, I'm going to get hurt. The fear of getting stuck on a chairlift. I don't really like heights, which is funny that I'm doing a second movie about heights now. But then it was, I know this is a good concept. I know anyone who's been skiing has thought of this. Like, what would I do? But how do I sustain it? Because like in a typical movie, you have scene changes, costume changes, like you go from day to night, from whatever. Like, this was just the chair. Like, the chair was a character, and can I sustain it for that long? And I'm just grateful the producers let me cast who I cast, because like, especially like Zegers was great, but he's sort of like the Janet Leigh in a way. Because I think he probably was the most well-known face out of the three of them at that time, even though Sean had been in the X-Men movies. But to kill him first, because Sean Ashmore's character is very much set up to be the first one to go, because he's the third wheel kind of like, you know, best friend.
Right.
But when it comes down to just Sean and Emma, and then Emma got Final Destination 5 off of that.
Oh, shit.
That was a crazy day, because Craig Perry, who produces the Final Destination movies, who's a friend, he left me a message, and it's like, Mr. Green, Craig Perry here. Give me a call back. Wanted to ask you about Final Destination. And I was like, finally, I get the nod. Holy shit, here we go. And I called, and I'm like, I love Final Destination, man. And he's like, yeah. He's like, we were thinking about Emma from your movie Frozen. What do you think? And I was like, she's great, man. You should totally hire her if you can. She'd be great. And then she got Walking Dead, and then she got Dallas, and like, but if you look at Frozen, it says, and introducing Emma Bell. So, and she was the first person to audition for that movie.
You have a knack for that, getting the first person that auditions, because I think Mary Beth, who played her originally, she was also a first.
No, she was one of the last.
Oh, really?
We had seen everybody, including Danielle Harris from Mary Beth.
Oh, yeah,
And
right.
at the time, I was like, fuck, this movie's already got, because that was the last part we cast. Because I just couldn't find somebody that was right, knowing I want this to be, at the time, 3 movies. And we had Kane, we had Robert Englund, Tony Todd, Josh Leonard from Blair Witch, Mercedes from Buffy. I'm like, if there's
and Adam's Family.
and Adam's Family, but I'm like, if we have one more horror person in this, it's because it's a comedy, especially people are going to think it's a parody. Which is why if you look at the trailer for Hatchet, there's not an ounce of humor in that trailer, which I still do agree that was the right way to go. Because if they had started including any of the humor, no one, it would have seemed silly and like, what is this? So anyway, we didn't go with Danielle and we went with Tamara, who is one of the final people to come in. But on Frozen, Emma was the very first, not just for that character, but very first person to walk in the door. And her audition was the monologue about her dog starving to death. And I was just like, that's her. Like, it's her. Stop. We don't need to see anybody else. But they made me go through 5 more weeks of auditions. And then she had set the bar. But even like her face, because she's pretty, but she's pretty in a real way.
Yeah.
Like she's not like so pretty that she couldn't exist.
Right.
Or because oftentimes in movies, people are they're so outrageously good looking where that becomes almost like a distraction because they're like, God, how is this guy this much better looking than I could ever be on my best day?
Am I supposed to look like this?
Yeah. Like, fuck, man. God, look, this guy's got abs. God, I could never be with a girl that hot. Like I could it just happens. So for the most part, as good looking as everyone is that I've ever worked with, I feel like I've always gotten to work with like real looking people, which like I kind of prefer. But this new one, were we talking about this last night? Like the main cast is so good looking. It hurts.
They're all hot. It's insane.
Thankfully you get over that pretty quick on screen, like based on like things that happen and everything. This was something I mentioned to producers. I'm like, the average genre fan doesn't look like that. And they like it when there's at least someone in the cast that looks like them and not the person that picked on them in high school or that they could never get up the courage to ask out. Given the context of the story, like it all makes sense. But I just remember seeing them all together for the first time and being like, holy shit, like you guys are way too good looking to hang out with me. Like this is not gonna work.
So how long was that in production for? I mean, how long were you guys shooting?
I left from Malta right after New Year's. And so January, I got back early April 1st.
Oh my God, is that the longest production you've ever had?
But a lot of that was prep. I think the actual shoot was about 5 weeks. It's hard to say because there were so many days that we got shut down because of wind or rain. And then then we would shoot on the weekend instead. And I'm sure somebody knows the answer. By the time we record a commentary, I'll make sure I know it. But we still actually have a little bit left to shoot as well.
Yeah.
So,
is the movie set in Malta or was that like a budgetary choice?
No, it's set there.
Oh, okay.
So I think that was maybe the writer wrote it knowing that Malta's a great place to shoot. And fuck, was it great, man. The people were so awesome. The crew was so good. The food was great. Like I loved it there.
Dude, they shot Passion of the Christ there. It looks really ancient.
And Jurassic, the new Jurassic World and Gladiator 2 was there. Popeye was there, Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, Popeye.
Yeah. The Popeye Village is still there. I never had a free second to go see it, but the rest of the American crew all went there and they were like, yeah, it's what you think it is. I'm like, all right, cool. I didn't miss anything.
So when you're in another country filming something like this, I mean, is there still those like pinch me moments of holy shit, I can't believe I'm doing this? Or are you just kind of used to the routine now?
No, every single day. Every day you're like, I can't believe I'm getting to do this. And it's something I keep stressing to my actors on each movie and on the crew because I never forget it, but I can understand why some days it's so hard and you're so tired and beaten up that, of course, it's natural to want to complain. but like the fact that there are so many people who would give anything for the chance, just the chance to do this once. And I've never forgotten what that feels like. And it's just like, I'm very realistic. Like, I know I was just joking about it, but like until this new movie is out and people can see it, anything could happen. Like
Right.
tomorrow they could be like, oh no, it all burned up. Like whatever a meteor crashed and like, you just don't know.
Yeah.
But I always try to stress to people. And again, if there's a making of on the physical release of this, I know when we picture wrapped, I just remember like, cause it's always like a blur, especially the very end, because you have to, as the director, you have to keep this like thing going through the whole thing. Like you've got this. And then finally you reach the finish line and you just want to like collapse and like you can't even remember like what the last few weeks were like. And there was like a bottle of champagne like pushed into my hand and everyone's like, speech. And like I knew there was a rap party coming up and that's when I would put some words together. But I do remember saying, we're so lucky we get to do this, that we get to tell stories. And then you always have to assume each one is your last because there's no guarantees in this. It doesn't matter that you've had previous success or that you have a following or that like there's no guarantees in this. And I think I've always known that, but I think I was like, but I will always find a way. I'll find a way until 2020. And then it was like, oh man, nothing's going to happen. And then it felt like it was never going to happen again.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so curious how the pandemic and the strikes affected Hollywood because I've read the headlines about it and I've seen like kind of peripheral things on social media, but you never really hear about how badly it impacted everybody. So how were those few years and has it fully recovered yet?
No, it's not even close to recovered. And, it's like, I know I'm just speaking as somebody who works in Hollywood, but I always want to make sure to point out that like my TV series falling apart because of the pandemic or this movie not getting made, that's nothing compared to people who lost loved ones, who lost everything, people who got sick and are still having like long haul, like it's the pandemic is such a weird time, speaking of like mortality and horror and death. But we've had instances where like a few dozen people died horribly in some horrific event. And it takes a long time to come to grips with it and grapple with it. Like just in America, it was well over 1 million people that died and no one talks about it. Everyone is so over it. They don't want to hear it. And it's so weird to me. It's like, are we ever going to address what we collectively just went through as a race and see what we can learn from this? Because at the time, I don't want to get political on this, but it's no secret the country was and remains very divided. And usually for Americans, my opinion, what it takes to bring us together is a common enemy, which is sad. But that's what it is. It's like 9/11 happened and it was like, they did this and then everyone was an American and like, we're going to like Pearl Harbor, like, oh, we're going to, and then here's this thing that's affecting the whole world. And I was like, this is a moment, as horrible as this is, where we could see the best in everybody because now we got to look out for each other. We got to get through this somehow. But instead, within like days, just like blame and it's real. It isn't even real. It isn't like, and it just watching it all get worse and worse and worse. It's just weird to me that as a species, that's what we did and not, I don't know. You see like, there's a house on fire and you hear the story about the neighbor who went running in to save somebody or whatever. That's how I think of our country still. Like, I think America's fucking great. I think the people are great. And one of the benefits of the strike was that because once again, everything shut down for a year. I went and did a ton of conventions, which normally I would just do like 1 or 2 right before the release of something. But I was like, why am I sitting here? Like, if they're asking me to come, I'll go do it. And after several years of like being confined in our like bubbles, like ever since like 2020 happened, and all the fucking politics and the news and like books I was reading and all of it, you forget, or at least I forgot, how much I genuinely love people. And like getting out to conventions, and I mean all over the country, the reddest of red states, the bluest of blue states, everybody is fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish more people would just talk to each other, because like people think, especially online, if you don't think the way I do, you're my enemy. No, you're fucking not, dude. Like,
Right.
Don't let them do this to us. And it's, granted, I understand the horror community is definitely in its own bubble. It's not like, I'm not saying I went to like a Proud Boys rally and everybody was great. Like, I don't know what that would be like, but in terms of meeting people where they live, where they are, and just looking them in the eyes and talking about the things we have in common and how kind and nice people can be to each other. And that's one of the best things about the horror community.
Right.
It was not like this in the comedy world where I started.
Yeah.
I was not particularly happy my first couple of years in LA. I met some nice people, but it wasn't until I fell in with the horror crowd when I really started making like lifelong friends.
Yeah, I mean, to think that that's a controversial thing to say today. Like Damian Leone saying what he said on Twitter was pretty much just that. Like, hey, we should all be able to listen to each other.
He literally didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And then people were mad because he didn't say anything.
Yeah.
As someone who has met him and talked to him numerous times and who's the champion of what he does, he's not a bad dude. And like, just fucking leave him alone. He literally, I'm sure he was pressured to say something because others in that camp are very outspoken on their feelings. And I'm sure it was just a lot of like, when you should say something or you shouldn't. He tried to be like, hey man, this is for everybody. And then that wasn't enough.
Right.
And thankfully that fake outrage towards him passed pretty quick. And I don't think it's even a thing anymore. I hope it isn't.
I'm glad he didn't delete it. Most people would backtrack. He kept that shit up because, what he said was not bad. And I think really the way I took it was, I've got people on my production team that are on both sides. And so.
Yeah, I have family members that are on one side or another. Like, I don't love them any less.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't need to be that. And look, I'm super opinionated when it comes to that stuff. But I'm also well aware I work in an industry and my whole life I've been exposed to and surrounded by people that maybe other people have never even met. And all they know about that is they think, but like, I also grew up like when I was a kid, I remember my parents explaining to me, oh, you know what it was? This is so not a talk from the crypt. This is like going off the rails. But I remember being a little kid and my brother like pushed me or something in the backyard and I called him, what did I call him? I called him a homo. I'm like, you're a homo. I didn't know what the fucking word meant. Like I heard it at school. But I remember my dad stopping everything to explain to me what it means and why you shouldn't use that in that context because it's hurtful. But like my dad was one of those guys, like he's still alive. I don't want to make it sound like he's not, but when he said something, it mattered. Like he didn't just talk to talk. Like I'm definitely my mother's son. Like I'll fucking talk anyone's ear off. But when my dad has something to say, it matters and you listen. And that was when I learned that I had a cousin, Donald, who was not only gay, but dying of AIDS. And this is like the 80s AIDS, when it was still this scary thing. And if you look at someone who has it, you'll catch it and like keep them, like it was, I know you weren't born yet, so you don't remember it.
But
it was a very horrible time. And Donald was coming to visit us. And I remember my mom saying at the time, she didn't realize how sick he was. But she's like, he's very, very sick, but he's still well enough to travel, but he's dying. So I want to make sure you just come straight home from school because I hadn't met him. And I come home from school that day and I walk in the house and my mom is sitting in the kitchen and she's just like white as a ghost. Like she just saw death. And I can hear this like moaning coming from the living room because Donald's in there. And my mom's like, go in there, you shake his hand and you sit and you talk with him. And I'm like scared because I'm like, what's in there? And she's like, it's bad. It's really bad. But you go in there. And I went in and I shook his hand and I held it together, but it was like looking at death. Like he was a skeleton, like the just sores and like big eyes. Cause like he was just, there was no, he died shortly after, I think a couple weeks after that. But I just remember being my mom cleaned him and took care of him and just loved him, you know? But that was, I think, where at least one of the places where I've never had an issue with anybody for being who they are. I never was a thing. And maybe I was like too sheltered. Like I remember going to college and, that was the first time I ever saw like racism, like up close or whatever. And was just like, what people really, who the fuck care?
Right.
But that's me. That was my experience. I don't care about that stuff. It doesn't bother me. It's not, but I don't even think it's really bothering other people. I don't get it. Like, what is your,
This is
so it has
perfect.
nothing to do with this, but like,
No, this is perfect.
what,
Has everything to do with this.
I just think what we're into and what we do and loving monsters and the people on the outskirts and the unique and the the people that are so like anti-trans, you know what I've never, to the best of my knowledge, ever done is thought much about what a trans person looks like or doing or like. I don't care, man. Like if that's what makes you happy, awesome.
Right.
Like I don't like, so why are there some people that are so obsessed with it? Like, is it because they're secretly like, they want that?
Yeah.
Like they want to be like, what is, I just, or is it just because they've never met anybody who's trans? Is that, cause like I have friends, but again, look at the community that I'm a part of and that I live. So to me, it's so strange that you would have such a problem with it because these are great people just like me or you. So what's your problem? But I try to understand and meet people where they're at to the best that I can. But the one thing I've been trying adamantly to do is not hate somebody because they think differently than me. As long as they're not doing something to hurt somebody else or whatever, like, the best I can do is try to explain why I feel differently.
Right.
But I think this community above all others, like when you're at a convention in like Kentucky or Texas, you know that the thousands of people in that room did not all vote for the same person.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone goes their own way and they're not having any less fun together. They're not being any less nice to each other. And I just wish the rest of the world could be at those conventions and see what it's like and just remember like, oh fuck, man, people are actually pretty good.
Exactly.
Like it's not so bad.
The problem, I think, is social media. The fact that everybody is so fucking connected to each other and
Just delete it. It's not real. Like
Yeah.
I just keep trying to tell people it's like it's just not, because the nastier the thing you say or the whatever, like that's what's going to get amplified.
the likes and
and the amount of like lying that everyone does, and like I have to have it to promote stuff, but I don't think I've been on Twitter this year. Instagram I like because my algorithm is so dialed in on Instagram. No offense to my friends that I follow, I don't see any of their stuff. I just see red pandas, bunnies, kittens, puppies. Like it's all animals. Whenever I go to Reels, that's all it is, and I'm there for it, and I love it.
Yeah.
Haven't been on Facebook in forever. I'm gonna have to promote Yorkie-thon. And then I always love when I get the obligatory, you only come on here to promote stuff.
it's like that's the
Yep.
fucking use
That's
of
the
this thing.
only thing that this is good for is
Yeah.
that.
Well, because everything else is fake, and it gives you this false sense of like, oh, people care about me. There was a book I read by Cal Newport, and he goes into it beautifully. But he basically talks about how, you know, back in the day, if you wanted to get a following, if you wanted to be famous, you had to do something for it. And now you could set up your iPhone, you could set up some cameras and start a podcast, and boom, you could have 1 million followers tomorrow. But people are kind of forgetting that, like, the guys who are currently the pioneers in the industry, their value is not on what they promote on social media. It's everything that they do off of social media. But because you could post something and get 150 likes, it kind of gives you that same endorphin rush of you know, accomplishing something.
When cancel culture was at its like peak, when it had, like, I think like anything, when it all started, it was coming from a righteous place, but then it became a fad, and then it just became like celebrity hunting every day. Like, ooh, who's getting canceled today? Who made a joke 20 years ago that didn't age well? Like, but I think the best way to avoid cancel culture was to just not be on social media. Because if they couldn't tag you and come at you, they'll move on to somebody else to cancel, because that's no fun.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying there's not plenty of people that deserved to be called out for bad behavior or whatever, like, all for it. But when it became, you laughed at this joke, and now you're cheapening people who are bravely coming forward and telling stories that they've held back for years because of the repercussions that would come at them. And they're finally just saying, this is what happened to me, and this is who this guy really is, or this thing, whatever it might be. And now you're like, yeah, but that joke offended me. Like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe you are offended by that. Don't compare it to Weinstein.
Yeah. No,
That's different. This dude's a fucking monster. That person made a joke you don't like.
Right.
Like, I don't know. But again, when you talk to people, it's rare that you meet people in real life who are being that, I don't know what the right word is, but
yeah. Well, there's a guy right now who's in the process of being canceled, and a bunch of girls are coming out and saying, you know, he was married to this girl for the last 10 years and he cheated on her with me. And it's like, okay, where are we taking like, I get it. Cheating is bad, but it's like we're canceling people over fucking being too sexual. It's odd.
And whatever happened to calling somebody out on doing something terrible or being an asshole?
Yeah.
Why does it have to be end them? Like, end their, like, it depends what it is though. You know, like I'm always trying to, this is why I don't like talking about this stuff, because whatever I say first triggers somebody, because that's not what they were hoping I'd say. They don't let me finish, or they don't like, because yeah, I know that's not much of a stance to be like, I hear where you're coming from and I hear where you're coming from. But like on the podcast, every now and then, like if I say something, we did a roundtable on cancel culture, and I just kept getting comments calling me a Republican because I was against it, which I'm like, what? But then in the very next day, like if I make fun of Trump, which I make fun of Biden, I make fun of all of them. It's, if you don't think this shit, if you can't find the comedy in it, something is wrong with you. Like if you really think any of these people are like these wonderful, perfect, like they all need to get made fun of. That's a comedian's job, by the way. You make fun of the absurd. You make fun of power. And then I would get oh, you lefty crazy, like whatever I say, I'm something. I don't know, man. I can't let it bother me. And I've always tried to do the right thing. I've tried as hard as I can. I feel like I owe that to my parents. They raised me right. I have great friends. My wife is wonderful. Like my pets, all the work I get to do helping animals and stuff, being able to go to conventions and meet people and hear I've made something that entertained them or made them like, I'm a happy guy. I don't know what else to say. Speaking of conventions, when I first started doing them and people only knew they didn't know me or whatever, but they would be so disappointed when they would meet me.
Why?
I don't know. I think they were expecting somebody who looks cooler, like Rob Zombie, like because they'd see the movie and the violence and the gore, and then they get this, and like especially if I'm there with like my dog, my Yorkie, and my candles, like what you have, and the whole thing. It's just like it's so disappointing to some people. They're like, "Fuck, you're him." Like,
yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm sorry. I know I'm lame as fuck. Man. I don't know. You want me to cut myself or something? I can do it.
Yeah, I'll go jump off the rooftop right now.
Yeah, I don't even have any tattoos.
That is interesting. Was that a choice because you always knew you wanted to do acting, or you just don't like tattoos?
No, I never even really wanted to act. I just did it. But I just wasn't a tattoo guy, mainly because I didn't trust myself. If I had done it when I was a teenager, like most people do now, I would have the fucking Twisted Sister logo on my forehead. I would have like every pet name, every name of every pet I've ever had, all on like my chest with like the dates they died. Like I would regret it.
Yeah.
Like, and back then, again, sounding like an old guy, it was, you were different if you had a tattoo. That was like bikers had tattoos, rock stars had tattoos, prisoners or military, people who kind of like earned it in a way. And now everybody is just filled with tattoos. And I just like 60, 70 years from now, it's going to be really interesting how everyone looks.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like gravity's going to win.
Yeah.
Man. So
I like the idea of dying and having all my tattoos. Like, I think it's really truly the only thing we could take to the grave.
what talk about an art form though? Like when you see a great tattoo that someone's done, like I can't get over that somebody did that with a needle.
Yeah.
And like, and they mean something to people who have, like, I'm not against it or anything. It's just, it wasn't for me.
Right.
My wife's got plenty of tattoos.
Yeah. And there's
but
Adam Green tattoos all over the place.
Yeah. It is cool to see that at conventions, because as much as I might not be a tattoo guy, that something I did means that much, that in choosing something they want to decorate their body with, that was the thing. Like, what do you even like say to that? And that's so I don't keep talking your ear off here. I think that's the beauty of what we do, whether it's sitting down and talking to somebody whose work you admire, or going to a convention to watch a panel, or even like going up to meet somebody and get a picture with them or whatever. We're very lucky that we get to do this. And it's kind of like this like well-kept secret though, because if you're not into this, you tend to think, who would be into this? Who would want to watch this stuff? People dying, getting murdered and killed, or being scared. And I get it, because fear is a terrible feeling to most people. There's those of us who experience it when we're young and then go, that was fun. I want that again. Like whatever that first scary movie was that we saw, or like an early, Halloween holiday, whatever it was that piqued us and made us be like, The Mummy or Frankenstein or whatever. And you're just like, I want more of that. Like, I want us to, like, they didn't show them enough. I want to, like, oh, there's like a figure, a model of that. Like, I need to get that. But to somebody else, that feeling is the same as having a cold or being sick. Who wants to get sick? Nobody. Why would you want to be scared? So I understand what they're saying. But those of us who get it, we're just different. And that we have, forget the fact that Halloween is like a 3-month celebration in most places now, and we have all these events and stuff to go to, but that we have conventions and movies coming out that are for us every few weeks. And there are like online communities that aren't all just toxic and everyone screaming in a room. Like,
Yeah.
it's the other thing I don't get about social media. What do you think you're going to accomplish? Like if I was to be like, fuck black coffee mugs, like I'm so offended by black coffee mugs, I'm not going to change anyone's mind by saying that on social media. I might get the echo chamber back. Yeah, man, fuck black coffee mugs. And it doesn't matter that I've made movies that some people like or whatever. No one's going to change how they think because I said it. So that's why I don't understand the people just yelling in like Twitter. It's just a bunch of people in a room yelling to each other and at each other. And it's accomplishing nothing. You're not changing anyone's mind. You're not like... Anyway, we're very lucky that we exist in this culture because it's a good culture, and I think other cultures could learn a lot, especially from the fans of horror. Literally the nicest people you'll ever meet, and to have somebody come up to you and be like, whatever movie, that was the last movie I watched with my dad, and I drove 6 hours to tell you that, and that, like, they don't do that for romantic comedies. Like, there's no conventions, there's no like
or Christmas conventions, nothing.
No, there actually are some Christmas conventions.
Interesting.
Now. Yeah. Well, there's SantaCon, the big famous one. That's not really the same thing. But we're really fortunate, and I don't know. I'm just like, I'm so grateful that I ever got to make a movie at all. But like, I think this is my 10th, the one I'm on now, maybe, and the TV show and the like all of it. But I don't know if I'd stuck to comedy, I don't think I would have gotten to meet as many wonderful people as I get to at like literally every convention. People are like, aren't horror fans like weird? There's like 1%.
Yeah.
That's where it's the most normal, wonderful. It's like families and anybody I meet at conventions, I'm always like, oh man, we could have totally been friends in high school.
Yeah.
Like, you're totally like it doesn't like, anyway.
No, it is odd. I mean, and Halloween, I think is a starter kit for almost all of us. I know it was for you.
Yeah, that's how I got into this.
Same. These kept me going year around until next Halloween when you get to go trick or treating again. And then as you get older, it just becomes this thing that speaks to you existentially, because there is such power in dealing with fears. My biggest thing is heights. So, Frozen and soon to be Ascent is like my ideal film, because it really is a game of what would you do. And, that's your films. And, I love that you're not limited by ideas, and your philosophy is kind of just to get out there and do it. However, I do wish that I would see Scary Sleepover back. And dude, I think we could figure something out for Holliston season 3.
I think what was fun about Scary Sleepover was, especially for horror fans, you got to see these people like they really are, which was my intention for doing it, because we were doing the podcast, but I was like, someone like Tony Todd, I'm like, I've been friends with this guy for so long. I know the real Tony so well. I wish there was a way to show people this.
Have you watched it recently, back again?
I tried when he passed away, and it was too hard.
It was, yeah, he says something in that one where when you ask him what his fears were. And, they always opened up when you guys laid down at the end, for the sleepover. It was like kind of like a shrink now.
Yeah, the structure was always do something silly and fun, see people in pajamas that are stupid. But then when it gets down to like, what are you actually afraid of? And what's great is I never knew what anyone was going to say until they said it. And like, it's all real. We would set up the certain gags or whatever. Like, I'm trying to think of one, like Danielle scaring her with ET next to her. Like, she obviously was aware I was moving it to do that. But nothing is like scripted that I can remember. But when Tony, first of all, what the part I was most excited for people to see is what he's like when he arrived, joking around, how loud he was, how funny he was. That's how he always was. Just, he loved food. He loved, like, if he was into something, he couldn't get enough of it. And he had such appreciation, like music, certain things, like, and he could talk to you forever about it.
So fucking smart and wisdomatic. I think is his name Dave Foy?
Yeah.
So in one of the special features, he was talking about how he had a scene with Tony Todd, and he confided in him. He's like, dude, I'm really nervous. Tony was like, you got that feeling in your stomach? And he was like, yeah. And he goes, when that goes away, quit. And I was nervous today before we shot this, and I just kept playing that back in my head. And I'm just like, wow, what a powerful concept to make friends with that anxiety as opposed to fighting it.
Yeah. I think anybody who does anything, I think when you start to get intimidated by something, there's those who immediately run because they don't want to feel that. And then those who are like, all right, how am I going to do this then? But until you try stuff outside of your comfort zone, it's hard. Like, when I've read Ascent, I was like, how do you even fucking do this? So I'm like, and then I called my manager. I'm like, yeah, I want to say yes. And she's like, you don't sound very happy. I'm like, I don't know how to do it, but I have to now.
Yeah.
I have to because this is so hard. And after Frozen, I had been like, no more. The joke has always been with the crew, my next movie takes place in Hawaii and it's just me in a hot tub with beautiful women talking about hair metal.
Yeah, just get stuck in a hot tub.
Yeah, and it never happens. But Scary Sleepover was awesome, and in some ways it's sad that like when Sid Haig died, his episode jumped up like another like 100,000 views instantly, and I'm like, why did you have to wait till now
Right.
to come see like who this guy was?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like there's not other interviews and stuff with Sid, but I think, I don't know if I should say this, but there have been 2 platforms that reached out before we did that third like truncated season, which I'll get into that, but they're like, oh, would you be interested in doing this for us? And we could give you a budget and the whole thing, but they wanted to pick the guests or at least have a large say in who the guests were. And I'm like, this show works because I really know all these people and they're super comfortable with me and they're going to be honest and and there's plenty more where this comes from. And it's like, I don't need to know them all like as well as Laura or Joe or Kane or whatever, but they need to be able to trust me to be honest and admit what they're afraid of. And like Tony, none of us saw that coming when he started talking about his brother that he'd never spoken of before. Like, that whole bit where we had to shut the cameras off, like we really did, like it was like, and that was the season opener for that one. Usually, which is also one of the things I like about the show, you don't know what you're going to get. Is this going to be a funny one? Is this going to get really fucked up? Is it going to get sad? But if I couldn't, like if I had to start interviewing sports legends, that's not my thing. So I don't know, like, how am I supposed to do that? Like, I don't. Anyway, when we did decide to bring it back, because I was like, if this thing has well over 1 million views, and we're literally asking most people for $1, and as long as like 5,000 of these million people would be willing to give $1, because everyone is always like, crowdfund it. I don't believe in crowdfunding. It's not my audience's thing.
Yeah. Dude, I can't even give shit away to my audience for free. So.
Yeah, it's hard. But we decided, all right, you guys want more Scary Sleepover. This is how it's going to work. For every 5,000 we raise, we will do another episode. So if we end up raising whatever, $60,000, then you'll get, whatever that is divided by 5. Math. But right when we launched the crowdfund and people were giving, and then the pandemic.
Jesus.
And so I was like, in order to successfully crowdfund, I needed to keep posting it. You can't post something once. Because you got to remember, even though like you or I might only follow whatever, a few hundred people, a lot of people follow thousands.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you post something over and over again, it's probably not going to penetrate. You can't just post it once and assume all the people that follow you caught that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, how do I post this thing asking people to give money when right now everybody is now out of work, at home, scared, not knowing what they're going to do? I can't do this.
TikTok, Instagram Reels. I mean, that's why I think it was ahead of its time, because if you take those old episodes and repurpose them into a vertical format, I think that gets exciting again. And coming from a horror fan myself, like, the format, just like they come over, usually you've got the bag of candy or someone's got pizza or something fun like that. But then you go through their movies and you let them pick. I loved with Kane, you were like, no, we're going to watch Hatchet. But it's like, dude, the jokes
like that was staged. Obviously I didn't, I would never break my part 7 DVD.
And the fact that no one's done it before makes it even more genius.
Well, somebody will end up doing it and claiming that I didn't do it first. I'm sure. The best was, getting to be on The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob.
Oh, yeah.
Because we shot that a month before the pandemic started, so it didn't come out till that summer. And especially then, no one could ever know what the movies were going to be, so I couldn't say anything. And like, but when he was like, yes, we were thinking we'll have a bunch of you from Victor Crowley. And I also thought it was cool that he could have picked any Hatchet movie, but that was the one he picked. Anyway, when he was like, oh, we thought it would be fun if we did it like a pajama party and like everyone's in pajamas. And I'm like, where have I seen that one before? He goes, I know. But what do you think? I'm like, all right, fine. I mean, I didn't invent pajamas or sleepovers. But yeah, that was a fun day, especially because Ernie, the dragon, shit all over me. I'm like, oh, animals love me. Come here, Ernie. And I'm like, pfft. And lizard shit smells so bad.
Ugh,
and then I had to go on a cruise ship after that. And I thought, I'll just wrap these shit on clothes in this plastic bag. It'll be fine. My luggage stunk so fucking bad. Like it was a whole thing. So fuck you, Ernie. If you're is Ernie still alive? He's gotta still be alive. Don't dragons live forever?
I think they live to like 30 years old.
Well, I hope you're well, Ernie.
Let's take a 2-second pee break.
All right.
Be right back. The first question. I'm
Sorry, I'm like rambling. Speaking of why you shouldn't move to LA, Cody Snyder just texted me that he's moving to Atlanta. So he's out now too. Like everyone's just jumping shit. Like it's so bad. I mean, it would probably help this show because it'd be easier to get guests without you having to like bring people, you know?
Well, I actually like the fact that when I bring people out, I fly them in, they get the hotel, and we go to dinner because I feel like at these conventions, at least from what I've seen, I don't want to name any names, but I've seen some like surprising treatment towards some of these celebrities that get booked. You know, the hotel rooms that they get, and you know, just kind of how they're not really communicated with. And, you know, I'm a hospitable person. So to think that like some of these icons, I mean, I'm sure even you are not getting that kind of red carpet treatment. It's always been so shocking to me.
It's just sort of, you try to just not expect it.
Yeah.
And then just appreciate the hell out of it when somebody does a good job. Most of the conventions do a pretty good job. Sometimes like something will fall through the cracks or whatever, and it happens. I'm always more shocked by certain celebrities who seem like they would rather be anywhere else than there. And it's like, oh, dude, come on, man. Like this person just waited to talk to you. Can't you just, you're an actor. Act like you're a pleasant person. Act like you're actually excited to meet. Like, can't you just do that much? I don't know. I don't do them every weekend like some people do. So for me, it's always this like super exciting, like joyous thing when I do one. And like, cause not only do you meet all these fans, but then like the other guests that are appearing, sometimes that's the only time we all get to see each other.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to just like walk over and talk to this one or that one on like, I mean, what's more fun than that? Like it, and then you'll meet, there'll be somebody there who's just sitting there scowling. Somebody comes up to their table and they're just like, like not even making eye contact. And it's like, fuck, man. Like
I've had that a couple times. Couple of heroes I wish I never met.
was one of them a makeup effects artist?
Dude, did that happen to you too? Because yes.
No, he's always been nothing but nice to me. But I watch the way fans get treated and I'm shocked sometimes.
Yeah, I'm like dude, you're come on, man.
Well, we didn't name any names. That's
beep
not,
it.
yeah,
I'll
that's
beep
not
it.
going to be in there, is it?
No, I'll beep it. Well, I think your connection with your fans is exactly why you are where you are. I mean, you've always given them their due and you give them the, you know, that respect that everybody wants. And the fact that like you make it for the fans and you are an authentic fan yourself really shows in your work. And not just your growth. It's extremely touching to see Will Barrett's growth and how much the cinematography has improved from Hatchet 1 to the current projects. Even Sarah, your producer, like even in one of the bonus features, she was like, oh, on the first Hatchet, we were like, oh, we're making a movie. And now it's like, okay, we're making a movie. You could see it in the special features later on and to see you guys grow together.
She made those special features too for Hatchet, which was incredible. Yeah, the first had the stories on the Steelbook set only, but the first Hatchet, we had big condors like we had on Hatchet 3, like the real lighting package. And Hatchet 1 was on film. And then the condors couldn't make it to the set. One of them got stuck in the mud and the other one couldn't go uphill at all. Like once it started to go uphill, it would shut off. So we had a whole lighting plan, and then we had to scrap it because like you need those huge lights to be moonlight coming down. So we had to light everything on stands with like, I think they were like, what were they, HDMI like 1Ks or whatever. So none of the lighting in the first one was what it was supposed to be. And we just had to go with it. But yeah, when you look at 3, I mean, when people are like, oh, the 3's so much better, 2's my favorite, or it's the same DP. With Frozen, when I was like, and I really want Will Barrett to be the DP, one of the producers was like, no, not him. And now a lot of times they don't want you bringing people you've worked with before because they're like afraid you'll close ranks on them and they won't have a say. But he was like, I just don't like what Hatchet looks like. And I'm like, well, this isn't Hatchet, right? It's not going to look like that. And he's like, no, not him. What about the guy who did Spiral? I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
He didn't realize it was the same dude until like a week into filming Frozen.
Yeah.
But that's a hard thing a lot of DPs go through. Like Will's had stuff where like for commercials, this is years ago, he'd be like, oh, it's a car commercial? Cool. I've shot 60 car commercials. Here, you can see all these car commercials. These are national ads that I've done. And they'll be like, and we see you've shot Dodge and we see you've shot a lot of red cars, but we don't see a red Dodge on your, have you shot a red Dodge? Not, yeah, no, but I easily could. You see, I could, no. And that's like movies. If you've already made the movie they're trying to emulate, you get offered the job.
Yeah.
But every now and then you'll see somebody where you'll go, wow, that was an interesting choice. They got so-and-so to do whatever, but not often. Usually it's, I mean, I can tell you right now, that's why I got offered Ascent was because I did Frozen. If I hadn't done Frozen, I'm sure I wouldn't even come to mind. But so I'm grateful. Like it's been 15 years since I did a survival thriller. So I was psyched to get to do one again.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I really want to do is a kids movie. So
Any news on a Hatchet 5 potentially?
nope. No, it's always a possibility. I can't get into all of the minutia because it would take up 6 more hours of this. But the long story short is once we can make the movie with different entities at the behind the scenes at the top of the level, then I'll be interested in doing 5. But things need to change. And that, I mean, that's probably enough. People can make of that what they want, but the creative team is still very much a happy family and would love to do it. But we need to be under new management. Maybe that's the best way to put it, the diplomatic way to put it. And I think the old management knows at this point, I'm not kidding when I keep saying I'm not going to do it. So we'll see what happens. Like there's stuff all the time where people will call and be like, especially when Terrifier became a thing and they're like, what, dude, where the fuck's Hatchet 5? We need Hatchet 5 right now. Like, why aren't you doing it? I'm like, I don't feel like it. I'm going to do this other thing. Like, no, slashers, the clown, and you need the. I'm like, no, I'm good.
Well, all the bullshit you went through with censorship and the MPAA and getting pulled out of theaters, I feel like that's non-existent now. Like it is your world.
Yeah, they'll bring it back for me. But yeah, that was one of the things I was so like excited about with Terrifier 2. Like we tried that 12 years earlier. We were way too ahead to try it, and the MPAA yanked us from all screens. And then like Hatchet 1, still to this day, most places that stream any of the Hatchet movies, they're censored, and they don't tell you that. Yet, like the Terrifier movies are uncensored on Peacock but like Victor Crowley, like fucking censored. Hatchet 1, censored. Like I don't get it. Like especially because the Hatchet movies aren't mean spirited. Like they're funny. It's a good time. But anyway, to see somebody do what we tried to do and win. And it just makes me so happy. And I'm so proud of them, you know, because nowadays people be like, oh yeah, man, I love Terrifier 1. No, you didn't. No, nobody did. Stop it. You probably didn't even know that there was a Terrifier 1 until Terrifier 2. And that's fine. But like this whole, like, I was listening to a guy on the radio, trying to explain, like, you know, he's a better Metallica fan because he's been a fan since Kill 'Em All or whatever. And it's just like, all right, man, yeah, you win. You win. You're the biggest fan.
Yeah.
All these other millions of people, they're shit. You're the fan. Like, why do people have to do that?
Yeah.
And you know that guy probably didn't get into him until the fucking Black Album. Anyway, but yeah, we had tried to do the unrated release and we got yanked from all screens. And like, for some reason, the MPAA was so hard on the Hatchet films. And they're very, they're similar in many ways with the over the top practical gore and stuff. But when there was a convention, I was Kentucky Scarefest. Is that Scarefest? Yeah, Kentucky. Yeah. And someone's like, did you see Terrifier 3? And I'm like, yeah, man, it's fucking great, right? And he's like, yeah. Did you see Art the Clown put a chainsaw through somebody's crotch? And I'm just like, hey, do you remember when Victor Crowley put it through 2 crotches at the same time and the balls came dripping down? Yeah. No. And it's because the version he saw doesn't have it in it.
Right.
And it's like, that's why you think Art did that first. But anyway, it's awesome to see it finally happen. As a genre fan and champion, somebody was going to finally break through. I think in Terrifier's case, though, Terrifier 2 came out at the tail end of the pandemic. People really wanted to go back to the movies again. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think there was another horror movie that was even an option to go see. And they were smart. It was playing like twice a night, unrated, like these 2 shows, that's going to be it. And like selling it out. But the other thing that I don't think they get enough credit for is Damien and David, especially, were at every fucking convention. And David was in that makeup, which Damien was like dressing him up in. And this was before like Terrifier had become like a thing. But they worked so hard to get that image out there, to talk to people, to meet them, explain what they're about, what they're doing. And I would watch them all the time at the cons. And now they have the biggest lines.
Right.
How cool is that?
Well, Terrifier 1, I feel like I think it was called All Hallows Eve or something. And
well,
it was on Netflix.
Yeah, All Hallows Eve was like kind of like an anthology that Art the Clown was first in. But then there was Terrifier, which I only knew about because my friend Steve Barton was the one who, like, I think convinced Epic to put it out, because I don't think Epic liked it or something. I don't want to misspeak there, but there was something there. But Steve was like, here, you should watch this. And it's really cool. And when I saw the kill of the girl hanging upside down with the saw thing, I was just like, man, I could be friends with these guys. Like, these guys are awesome.
Well, the shit that your movies were getting pulled for are now used as like marketing material for the Terrifier movies.
Sure, but it's not a contest. And I always try to say that when they probably get the same thing. Like, fans are like, and I'm sure Kane and Robert got this back in the day. Like, you know, Jason's better than Freddy. Or like, can't we just love all of them?
Right.
Like, no one needs to be better than this one or that one. And like, I don't know. I just love what's happening with it. And it would be cool to bring Victor Crowley back at some point in the not that far future, if we can get out of, if we can move to a different pasture. Yeah, if I get into it here, like, it's gonna just be a whole fucking thing. But it's not that I don't want to do it, or that Kane doesn't want to do it, or Danielle or Perry or any of the other people who already think they're going to be in another one, if it ever happens. But in the meantime, we're all keeping busy doing other things. It's also, you know, I think part of the joy of the Hatchet movies is we never turned into a factory where we finish one and then we start the next one. And then we've always gone off and done other stuff, and then we'll come back to it. And I think, in my opinion, as someone who is a fan of the franchise, that's what's kept it strong. Like, we're not just making the same movie over and over again. We're also not rushing them out, or we're not doing it to do it. When we come back to it, it's because we're like, holy fuck, we got to do a Hatchet movie. And everyone is super excited and they just want to do it. Maybe other movies, remember when it was like, if it's Halloween, it's Saw. Maybe it was like that for them too. I don't know. I didn't work on that. But for us, I think getting to do Hatchet 1 and then go do a movie like Spiral and then produce Grace and do Frozen and then do Hatchet 2 was a lot of fun.
It showed you weren't a one-trick pony. You could do other things.
Yeah, I think at the time I didn't want to do Hatchet 2 right away because I didn't want to become the Hatchet guy. But if you've made anything that struck a chord and found an audience, you're that guy to that audience. And I'm fine with that. When people think, oh, he's the Hatchet guy, awesome. To other people, I'm the Holliston guy. Which is fun too, because sometimes it doesn't happen that often because I'm mainly a director, but when you get recognized like just on the street, like it's one thing if you're at a horror convention or like a metal show or something like that, like the chances of getting recognized are a little bigger. But when somebody first comes up, I have no idea which one. Like, what are they going to say? Are they a Hatchet fan? Usually it's, maybe not usually, but a lot of times it's a Ding Up the Mara or Holliston. Because most people don't know what directors look like. They just know me because I was on camera in those ones.
Mm-hmm.
I think I told you this story last night, I think, but I'm going to repeat it here because it's a good one to kind of wrap things up with. So as awesome as it is having the fan base and just the community and all of it, when you're like D-level famous, like someone like me, it can be super horrible getting recognized when you're out, because not that it's bad being recognized or they're annoying you or anything. It's awesome and like I'm there for it. But what happens is then anyone else in the vicinity doesn't know who you are because you're not really that famous. And then they feel the need that they need to come and let you know that. And that's why it's so horrible. And the best story I have from that, because we're in Vegas, happened in Vegas. I used to always come here to write. I would just get a hotel room for like 5 days and write. And I hadn't been here in like 6 years. But maybe 10 years ago, I was staying at MGM and I hadn't eaten in like 24 hours, and because I was writing, and I'm like, fuck, I'm going to run downstairs. I'll just do the buffet. That's fast. I can just grab some stuff and go. And I had like a really big beard at the time and like I had a baseball hat on, but I get up to the hostess desk where they're going to seat you somewhere. And I noticed there's like, I think it was like a full family, but there was like a teenage boy and a teenage girl. The boy's in a Holliston Nation shirt with like, I think that one on the back says like 10 things I learned from watching Holliston or something. And the girl's in a Hatchet Army shirt or something like that. But they're both wearing shirts from my stuff. And I saw it and I knew what was going to happen. And so I asked the hostess, I'm like, could I sit on the opposite? Could I sit over there? Would that be all right? I didn't say why or anything, but she was just like, sure. So I sat, I ate really fast, and then I'm ready to leave. And the exit at the buffet, I was going to have to walk right past their table. So I like hold my phone up to my ear, keep my head down, and just walk really fast. And again, it's not that I don't want to potentially talk to these fans. It's that I knew what was coming. And then I get right to the table and I hear, oh my God. And they stand up, and super nice people. I think it was the parents, really, really nice, like so gracious and polite. But then the other people sitting around, because they want pictures, now they're like, well, should I get who is that? I don't know who it is. We'll get a picture with them. I don't know. Go ask. And then they come up in front of fans and say things like, sorry, who are you? What is it? What is it? And they're like, oh, he did this movie and that movie. No, I've never even heard of that. I don't know. Well, here, could we get a picture too? I don't know. Someone might know who you are. Here, let's take this picture. And then it's just insult. And I'm like, listen, I didn't expect you to know who I am or have seen my stuff or whatever. I don't care. You don't need to all keep coming and telling me this.
Hey, but that's good Holliston season 3 fuel, because when you guys end up making shin pads, or did you guys do that at the end of season 2 or no?
We made, we made a short for shin pads, but no one got to see it because there was a zombie outbreak. The joke with shin pads was always going to be, because season 3 was written and we were going to have double the budget and double the episodes, but then Dave died and then the network went under. And like, again, like I was saying before, like the most crazy shit can happen. That's just beyond, there's nothing. And that one was so hard because I still tried to hold on to it with everything I could and like will it forward. And there was no right path forward, especially at that time. It doesn't mean it couldn't. I mean, look, there's shows that come back now, like 20 years later. And I think with Holliston, because of how irreverent it is, because originally season 3, before we knew anything was happening with like when Dave died and it all got fucked. It was going to start with elderly people cast as us because it's like been so long between seasons. And like that joke's only funnier now just for the cold open. But, anyway, it's just, as wonderful as it is to have an audience and people that care, moments like that are very humbling. And I mean, they're very funny stories afterwards, but in the moment you just feel so terrible. Like, especially when like, can you sign this? I don't have him sign it for Amy. She likes that stuff. She might know who he is. She might like, and they don't even realize
You're right fucking there.
and that but they're expecting, I don't know. The attitude is like, how should I know who you are? I don't think you should.
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
I didn't ask you to.
But then the fans are like, you don't know. No, oh, you got to see it. It's so good, man. You could see, but you got to see the unrated version. And you got, again, wonderful. But then you feel bad for them because
Right.
now they're trying to defend that and all I wanted to do was get some fucking coffee and eggs and go back to work.
You're right. Right. Well, dude, as long as you know that the fans appreciate you, and I think it's like a part of your brand, that like resilience, going against all odds and just getting out there and making it, I think it captures the essence of the filmmaking spirit. And I know you wince when people talk about how important you are to the industry, which is good because you are a modest guy. But dude, I think without Hatchet, we may not have seen some other successful films. I mean, Victor Crowley walked, so several others could run afterwards. So I thank you for what you do.
Really, really, really appreciate that. And I don't know if it's true, but I appreciate it. And I don't know. I'm really grateful to be here. I so appreciate you asking me to come on. Like I was telling you, I normally only will do interviews if it's like right before some news coming out. And Ascent is probably a good, I don't even know, 9 months, a year away from actually like being out where everybody can see it. So, but yeah, Kane had done this and said what a great time he had. I knew Bill had done it. So when you reached out, I was like, you know what, I'm going to say yes to this one. And it's just been awesome.
Well, and I appreciate it. And I hope in, the next 5 years or so, it'll be a good decision on your part. I hope to make you proud. And, this thing isn't going to stop anytime soon. And I hope that you aren't either, my friend.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know what's waiting around the next corner, but yeah, it's good. And in case I didn't stress it enough, it's not me. It's the people around me. Like I might generate an idea or lead the way, but like without the Will Barretts, the Sarah Alberts, God, Bear McCreary, who's done the scores for, like, Bear's doing the biggest fucking movies in the world. He doesn't need to be doing my stuff, and yet he still does. There's just, I don't want to keep naming names because then I'm inadvertently leaving out like 60 people that I should be thanking. But like I say to everybody, like, it's the people you surround yourself with. Just surround yourself with great, good people, build your film family. And that way, as you go through the storms, it's a little bit more survivable because you've got shoulders to lean on.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining me in the crypt today, which I can't say confidently anymore because you also have the crypt. In fact, I loaded up the children cheering as a sound cue on here because I was going to pay homage, but you don't have the headphones on, so I'll play
I can put them on.
Yeah, we'll do it one more time. All right, everybody, thank Adam Green for being here. Same exact one.
Same exact one.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can follow Adam Green on Instagram at Adam_FN_Green, Ariscope website, ariscope.com. And please listen to the Movie Crypt. I really don't listen to very many horror podcasts, but I'm so glad I've binged yours. It really is amazing.
Thank you. And one more time, Yorkie-thon 9, July 25th through 27th. Hopefully this is up before then.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the money goes to Save a Yorkie Rescue. They do great, great work. They save so many abandoned and horrifically abused dogs. But it's going to be 24 hours live that weekend. We're doing a live script reading. I wish I could just fucking say it already, because our poster is going to be for it. But every year we do a script
When do you
reading.
guys announce it?
How long does this take to release? Hopefully by the time this is out, we'll have said it.
If not, I could hold it, but I'm trying to finish it before June 5th, but I could
Oh
put it
no,
off.
but yeah, it's a done deal. But until it's in our hands,
Right.
I don't want to jinx it. But it's a very popular franchise. A script was written for a film in that franchise that was not made, and the writers were generous enough to give us that. So we're gonna have a live script reading of this thing that nobody got to see. In the past, we've done. We did the Friday the 13th 3D one that was supposed to come after 2009. We did the original draft of Back to the Future, Goonies, Gremlins. The Gremlins where Gizmo turns into a butterfly at the end, and Goonies where the girls are having orgasms from Data shocking the leeches off of them in the well. So anyway, this is something that was not made. There'll be a live script reading of that on Saturday night. There's going to be live comedy, film commentaries, all kinds of great guests. It's always a really good time. It's all for a good cause. So even if you just watch it, just to enjoy it, that's fine. But if you watch it and you also want to give a few dollars to Save a Yorkie Rescue, there's a way to donate, or you can buy stuff in Arwen's auction. There's always awesome shit. One year Slash gave us his top hat.
Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah, it went for $8,000.
My God.
Yeah, we get really good stuff from our friends. And anyway, yeah, Yorkie-thon 9, let's save some dogs. It'll really warm my heart. It'll save the dogs, and it'll make you feel better too.
Let's save some Yorkies, and I will drop the links in the description.
Awesome, dude.
Adam Green, thanks so much, man.
Thank you.
And everybody at home, peace.